Good evening, good folks, and welcome to the City of Muskegon City Commission General Session for this Tuesday, November 25th, 2025. Before we get started with our business, I want to remind folks that we do have a few different public comment periods this evening. First up, we're going to have a public hearing with regard to Neighborhood Enterprise Zone District. Then we'll have public comment on agenda items, although we do have time for our federal, state, and county partners to update us as well. Then we have public comment on agenda items. If you've not already completed a form, there are forms in the back room. I encourage you to complete those forms if you wish to give public comment this evening, whether on an agenda item or items or general public comment at the end of the meeting. Those forms are at the back of the room. I encourage you to fill that out. Please provide your name and home address. I will not be sharing your home address nor asking you to announce that. That's for our records. I will be acknowledging if you are a City of Muskegon resident, which neighborhood you're joining us from, and if you're not a City of Muskegon resident, which other township, village, or city you may be joining us from. Everyone has 3 minutes to provide remarks, regardless of whether they're giving them in person or which public comment period they're utilizing, or if they're calling in by phone, because we do have phone-in comments. When we get to phone-in comments, a phone number will be scrolling at the bottom of the screen, and I will be also announcing that phone number. I'm going to give it to you right now, just so folks watching wherever have that at the ready. That phone number is 231-724-6721. Please do not call in right now. That is for later when we get to public comment periods. And when you do complete the public comment form, please give it to our city clerk there at the end of the dais. All right. We're going to be led in prayer by Pastor E.J. Wood from All Shores Wesleyan Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you wish to join us in either of those activities, I please ask that you stand if you're so capable of doing so.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. If you're here at City Hall with me or joining us online, I invite you, if you would like to join me in prayer now. Gracious and loving God, we gather this evening in your presence asking for your guidance and blessing over our city commission and over all who live and serve this city that we and you love. As a pastor in this community, God, I lift up these leaders to you, and I pray that you would bless them with wisdom that surpasses our own understanding, with courage to do what's right even when it's hard, and with hearts grounded in justice, mercy, and humility. Help them to reflect a life that loves our neighbors, cares for the least among us, and seeks peace. God, on this week of Thanksgiving, we give thanks for this city that we call home. Lord, I ask that this room would be filled with your spirit, bringing unity where there's division, hope where there's discouragement, clarity where there's confusion, patience where there's unrest. Help all of us as members of this community to lead with integrity, to listen with compassion, and to act with boldness for the good of all who call Muskegon home. Bless our city, God, its neighborhoods, its schools, its businesses, its families, and its future. Let your kingdom come in our streets as it is in heaven. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. May we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Gorman?
I'm here.
Commissioner Cochin?
Here.
Vice Mayor St. Clair?
Here.
Mayor Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Kilgo?
Here.
Commissioner Keener? Absent. Commissioner German?
Here.
Thank you. First up, honors awards and presentations, and we have a Citizen Life Savings Award that we're going to be presenting this evening.
Good evening, Public Safety Director Tim Coleslow. I'm going to call up Battalion Chief Keith McMillan. He spearheaded this award presentation tonight. I'm going to have him take the baton on this. Chief McMillan.
Right. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and it's kind of extra special for us to be able to acknowledge some of the actions that citizens will do for humankind. In my career, I have seen a lot of things happen in our waters off of Lake Michigan, Pere Marquette area, Muskegon Lake, and it's easy to underestimate the power of Mother Nature. On the afternoon of October 5th of this year, a 911 came in to our central dispatch with a swimmer in distress on the south outer arm of Pier Marquette. While en route, we were getting updates from dispatch saying the swimmer was getting pushed into the rocks. We had sea conditions of 5 to 8 footers out on Lake Michigan. While we were en route, dispatch came across and told us that there were a couple sea-doos out that were attempting to rescue the victim. Just a few minutes later, then we got notification now we had a potential 3 victims in the water because they were all struggling for their lives. When we arrived, there were 3 individuals in the water that were struggling. Our engine company got there. Mr. Nate Whitney and Matt Verplank had their sea-doos, and they had gotten off of their sea-doos, struggled to get the victim, and were able to get the victim onto one of their sea-doos. They then were struggling to get back to their sea-doos and get to safety. Our crews were able to actually get lifelines out to rescue one of the rescuers, and we were able to get the victim and the second rescuer to shore. So this gives you a little bit of background what happened, and just I'll keep it short, but in my career there's really 3 things that happen. There's a fight or flight that happens, and there's when people go into a fight mode, they can run into that danger. They'll actually face their fears. They kind of overcome that. Some people will run from that danger. Other people will freeze. These 2 individuals put another person above their own safety, and that day, there's no doubt in my mind that a life was saved because of their actions. So with that said, I'm going to read a letter from the chief on behalf of the city of Muskegon and the Muskegon Fire Department. We want to extend our sincere appreciation to Matthew Verplank and Nate Whitney for your heroic actions on October 5th, 2025, in the waters off of Lake Michigan at Pier Marquette Park. Your willingness to act quickly and decisively when you observed a woman in distress made a critical difference in the outcome of a life-threatening situation. Without hesitation, you exposed yourselves to danger and worked together to bring her safely to shore. Your bravery, situational awareness, and sense of responsibility exemplify the very best qualities of citizen responders. It is clear that your actions directly contributed to saving a life that day. We commend you for your selflessness and willingness to act in the moment that demanded swift, courageous intervention. It is individuals like you who remind us of the profound impact ordinary citizens can have when they choose to step forward and help. Nate and Matt Verplank, will you please step up here? Is Robin in here by chance?
She couldn't make it.
Robin could not make it. But I spoke with the victim that was saved that day, and she is just so grateful we're recognizing you two. Thank you for everything you did. You may have even saved firefighters and other responders' lives that day by your action.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Chief, we have another award to present
Yes.
and celebrate this evening.
Yes, I'd like to bring up Lieutenant Samantha Pasteur. Director Paulson, also, please. As much as the lieutenant does. So, this award or recognition that we're doing tonight, it's a little bit from apart from when she was initially recognized, but she was in the running for the national award. So we wanted to wait, just, hopefully that she would have had that, but we'd like to truly recognize her tonight. I'm just going to read from what we put for the item tonight. Lieutenant Pasteur, a 6-year veteran of the Muskegon Fire Department, has been an integral part of the team, exemplifying the core values of courage, integrity, and selflessness. Throughout the past year, she has shown extraordinary leadership in emergencies, providing crucial support in community outreach programs, and continuously trained and mentored fellow firefighters. Among Lieutenant Pasteur's notable achievements last year, she was pivotal in saving 2 lives in 2 separate structure fires, demonstrating quick thinking and unwavering resolve in the face of danger. In her tenure with the Muskegon Fire Department, Lieutenant Pasteur has earned 2 life-saving awards, 3 unit citations, a commendation for excellence, and a medical service award for successfully reviving a subject while performing CPR. In addition to responding to emergencies, she's been actively involved in fire prevention education, CPR certification classes, and department training programs, further strengthening the department's impact on the community. Lieutenant Pasteur was formally presented the award at the American Legion State Conference in July of this year. That award was for Firefighter of the Year for 2024 for the whole state of Michigan. We as a city want to recognize her for this great achievement in front of you, the City Commission, and the community today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Pasteur. Congratulations. We so appreciate your service to our community, and you're an incredible asset to the Fire Protection Services. Thank you. All right, next up, we have a public hearing for consideration of a Neighborhood Enterprise Zone Certificate for 438 East Isabella Avenue and 444 East Isabella Avenue. And we have Isabella. Could you kindly introduce yourself and please report out on this item?
Absolutely. So my name is Isabella Gonzalez. I'm a development analyst here at the City of Muskegon. So today, the public hearing that we're talking about today is going to be discussing properties 438 East Isabella and 444 East Isabella. So we received 2 applications for neighborhood enterprise zone certificates or the construction of single-family homes at the addresses I already stated. The proposed sale prices are $199,000 for each. The applicant has met all local and state requirements for the issuance of NEZ certificates. The Neighborhood Enterprise Zone Act provides for the development and rehabilitation of residential housing located within eligible distressed communities. So this act allows an individual to abate their property taxes by approximately 50% for the future property owner.
Thank
We
you.
actually have the developer here as well today to answer any questions.
All right, excellent. We'll do the public hearing first, hear from anyone in the audience or at home, after which we'll close the public hearing and entertain the motion at that time. We'll hear from the developer, and the commission can ask any questions of yourself or the developer and give their thoughts before we go to vote. So is there anyone in the audience that wishes to give comment as part of this public hearing on the issuance of a Neighborhood Enterprise Zone Certificate for 438 East Isabella Avenue and 444 East Isabella Avenue? Seeing no takers in the audience, we're going to go to the phones on that. The phone number is 231-724-6721. This is an opportunity to give comment specifically with relation to the issuance of NEZ certificates for 438 and 444 East Isabella Avenue. We'll give that a few moments, a bit of a delay. Does not sound like we have any takers for this public hearing. Commissioners, I would entertain a motion.
So moved. I move to close the public hearing and approve neighborhood enterprise zone certificates for 15 years at 438 East Isabella Avenue and 444 East Isabella Avenue, and authorize the city clerk and mayor to sign the applications and resolutions.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner Cochin, supported by Vice Mayor St. Clair. Before we entertain any questions or comments from the commission, I'm going to give an opportunity for the developer. The developer here, right? Yes, sir. If you kindly come up, introduce yourself, and share some information about what you're doing.
My name is Robert Musey. I'm in the building business, and I really appreciate everything the city of Muskegon does. They do something about affordable housing, and it's the only thing that allows us to really move forward with these projects. So I've done a few of them in the city, and I'm just very grateful for everything that the city puts forward to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would you stay there just a moment in case any commissioners have any questions for you? Commissioners, do you have any questions for this gentleman before we go to staff? Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Musey. Welcome tonight. These homes that you actually developed, if I'm looking at them correctly, they're in my ward. So I always want to get a feel for the developer, give you a chance to speak if we have any questions. Why are you asking for the 15 years for the NEC certificate?
Part of the affordable end of this project, without the tax abatement, it's really hard for people to qualify for the loan. In fact, we have one we're working right now, and this part of it is extremely important to the sale. It just makes the payment more affordable, and it gives everybody their own home ownership. So really needed to get people qualified.
Okay, and we're looking at about 200,000 for this home.
Correct.
Okay, so the average cost for a mortgage would be somewhere around what, or something like that.
I got to be honest with you. I don't really handle much of that. I get it up,
Okay.
and I have a realtor that does most of them, which is Jay.
Right, and depends on the interest rate and all that stuff. I said probably depends on the interest rate and stuff like that
Yeah,
also.
depends on the
of
interest
loan.
rate.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yep.
And the
So,
financing programs. So there are several out there, and this is just one of the cogs that really makes it all happen.
okay. Have there been any interested buyers so far?
Yeah, I built 3 of them earlier or last year, which sold, and then I have 2 more of them up, and we actually are going to dig 2 more in the city next week.
Okay. And last question: are your clients within the city of Muskegon, or they're located somewhere else? The people that's interested in buying the homes. Do you
Most
know
of them
that?
seem to be within the city.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner German. Any other questions for Mr. Musey? Thank you, sir. All right, any questions for staff? No? All right, any thoughts before we go to vote? No? All right. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Cochin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Musey, for investing and growing with Muskegon. All right, next up, we have federal, state, county officials update. I see a county commissioner. I don't know if she wished to give updates. Kindly come to the podium and introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. I'm Jessica Cook, Muskegon County Commissioner for District 6. Just wanted to read a resolution of support that we passed unanimously at our county board meeting on November 18th. Resolution of support for connecting the community to the water ports and parks property. Whereas the Muskegon County Board of Commissioners recognizes the strategic importance of sustainable economic growth, environmental stewardship, and equitable public access to the Muskegon Lakeshore. And whereas the proposed land swap represents a transformational, once-in-a-generation opportunity to reimagine how our residents and visitors interact with the Muskegon Lake shoreline. And whereas the proposal will more than double the amount of publicly accessible waterfront on Muskegon Lake, creating new opportunities for recreation, tourism, and community engagement. And whereas the concept envisions portions of private property becoming public space featuring boardwalks, green spaces, and Muskegon's maritime monuments, while allowing other areas to be developed for new housing and business opportunities. And whereas the project includes the creation of a nature preserve on the City of Muskegon's east side, the restoration of the area where the south branch of the Muskegon River meets Muskegon Lake, and the protection of valuable wetlands within the project footprint. And whereas this initiative will strengthen the local economy by supporting new jobs, expanding business opportunities, and attracting private investment that complements the collaborative, comprehensive plan of property realignment for public and port use on Muskegon Lake. And whereas with the recent removal of Muskegon Lake from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's Areas of Concern list, Muskegon County has an unprecedented opportunity to demonstrate its commitment to environmental recovery, economic innovation, and improved quality of life for all residents. Now therefore be it resolved that the Muskegon County Board of Commissioners hereby expresses its strong support for connecting the community to the water, ports, and parks land swap concept, and encourages collaboration among all relevant stakeholders to advance this initiative in a manner that maximizes economic opportunity, preserves natural resources, and creates lasting community value for current and future generations. And again, we passed that unanimously at our board meeting on November 18th. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cook. Appreciate you sharing that with us and being here tonight. Do we have any other county, state, or federal partners here this evening that wishes to give any kind of updates? Seeing none, we're going to move on to public comment on agenda items. I've got several forms here, so I'm going to start with our city residents and go from there. So first up, we have Evan Ewing joining us from the Glenside neighborhood. Welcome, sir. You have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks. And this is speaking on with regard to the Fisherman's Landing
Land
Mart
swap.
Dock development.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners and everybody here, and the audience as well. It's nice to see people participating in the event here that's presented before us today. I come here to stand against this deal. I do so because once I read and learned about this deal, I found it to be so lopsided in favor of Mart Dock. I just had to come and speak up. When people actually see the facts on this, instead of just hearing about a shiny new museum, they are universally against it. I've talked to a lot of people on this subject. Grocery stores, neighbors, folks that live in the community. Please listen to us on this. They seem to be against it. Please listen to the people who voted you in. Not only because that is what your job is, but what the voters ask of you. Listen to the folks. You do work for the whole community. Excuse me?
That wasn't me, it was somebody from,
Okay, I thought I heard somebody.
From the
You did.
audience, please refrain from remarking from the audience, please.
You do work for the whole community, not just the wannabe oligarchs. About this proposal, no one seems to be in the know about it. It seems that the idea is to swap the land and hold our breath while the Mart Dock people develop it as they see fit. There's no agreements on any of this stuff as what's going to happen with it. No solid agreements in writing. I don't know how you can go forward on that. Trusting someone when we've seen how that's worked before in our community. What I see is this, talk about increasing the waterfront access to the people is I've heard talk of a sidewalk to walk along Mart Dock property over there. No, like a 6 or 8 foot sidewalk, maybe 10. I don't know exactly what the proposal is, but a sidewalk. Okay. What I see is that happening right there is that the public access of that. All that is really doing is transferring the responsibility for the contaminated water and the upkeep of the seawalls around that area to the public, to the taxpayer, us. Great deal for the Mart Dock, not for the community. And I gotta figure there'll be way more surprises going forward that are unknown to you. I don't see the push to get this done right now. Why isn't it studied more? Why can't it be discussed more? Have more public input on this? You say that you've had some of these meetings and whatnot. Oh, boy, we're going fast here. Well, basically, what I was thinking of, the money that you waste on this deal could go to the police and the firefighters to give them what they need and what they want and protect our community, because that is your first responsibility, to protect the community, not waste money on some pie-in-the-sky deal that you think is going to be great for us. It's not.
Thank you, Mr. Ewing. Appreciate you joining us this evening. Next up, we have Kathleen Riegler joining us from the Nelson neighborhood. Good evening. You have the 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
In 2004, I quit my real job and started selling cheese at the Muskegon Farmers Market on Yuba Street. The years passed and the cheese lady settled into a brick and mortar on Clay and then moved to Terrace Street. Over 10 years ago, there was a huge ruckus when Muskegon Farmers Market began its journey to its present location. There was enough anger to go around and predictions of a massive failure because everybody would hate it. It is now the second largest market in Michigan and a huge success. Change is tough. In this world of so much discomfort, hanging on to what has always been seems prudent, can even seem smart. There's a quote that we used when I was in business: if you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got. Change is not easy. We have the chance to make a change. We can have a dock area that celebrates our past and welcomes our future. Muskegonites have a tendency to underestimate the possibilities. I'm hoping our city commissioners look at the potential and vote for the future, our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Riegler. Appreciate you joining us this evening. Next up, we have Drew Turwey joining us from the Nims neighborhood. I don't know if I properly pronounced that last name. You can kindly correct me. You have 3 minutes to provide your remarks, Drew.
All right, try to make it quick. Congrats on the win, too. So, start off, I am a camper. I live on Muskegon Lake, and I'm a crazy fisherman. As soon as I walk out of here, I'll be walleye fishing. So, love everything that this whole topic's all about. So, I would say these three facts check pretty big boxes of how the fisherman's landing topic affects me. Now that we set the table a bit, there are just a few things I'd like to touch on. The rollout of the messaging related to this topic was disappointing, to say the least. When it first started making waves through all my fishing buddies, all I heard was fisherman's landing is going away. That's all I heard. And then I started seeing all the signs and stuff saying save fisherman's landing. I'm like, dang, it's going away. Well, that stinks. So I thought, hey, there has to be more to the story, so I dug into things a bit. And when I did, I was shocked to find out that the proposed plan was being portrayed extremely different than the reality that was around me, from all my fishing buddies and the signage. So when I got over the fact that everything I'd been hearing and seeing should have been saying save fisherman's landing campground and not fisherman's landing, I started thinking more about what is really best for Muskegon. It didn't take me long to come to the conclusion that this is a no-brainer. Without a doubt, this land conversion would be the best thing that can happen for Muskegon, putting all my stuff aside. I can't think of a better thing to activate downtown and give the economic development a shot in the arm.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you joining us this evening. Next up, we have Cindy Larson joining us from the Nelson neighborhood. Good evening.
Hello, everybody.
I've been involved in economic development the majority of my adult life. And so I think all of you know, because I've written you, where I stand on this. So I just want to say something really short. All this week, people have been contacting me from literally across the whole country, from Washington to California, saying, what are these commissioners going to do? Are they going to move us forward, or are they going to hold us back? Are we going to get to have this signature waterfront that everybody can enjoy, gather, picnic, have events, all the things that the county put in their report to show how it is economic development, pure and simple, it's economic development. So I know it's a tough decision, and I just wanted you to know it's not just the people in this room or in this city that are watching and caring about this. It's people that want to come back. It's our kids that want to come back. It's people that want to move here. It's families that want to start here. It's people who want to invest here. They want to know, what is the commission going to do? I hope that you make the right decision and you bring us forward and you do not hold us back. Good luck.
Thank you, Ms. Larson. Appreciate you joining us this evening. Next up, we have Dan with Muskegon. Good evening.
Hello, good evening. I'm a little taller than this thing.
Oh, and joining us from Nelson Neighborhood. Forgot to recognize
And
that.
actually, tonight I'm representing Muskegon Community College. Dr. John Salmon could not be present tonight, so he asked someone to come and say a couple of words. As you might know, Dr. Salmon's on the board of Greater Muskegon Economic Development, and they're here too. But they, I think, sent a letter that hopefully you received. Dr. Salmon wanted someone to come to the commission and say that we support this concept. Muskegon Community College has a Cirrus Technology Center, which is downtown Muskegon, and has participated in downtown development and also sees the economic development opportunities. We would like to move the community forward, and so we would hope that the commission supports the land swap concept. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you joining us this evening. I think that concludes our city residents with public comment forms. So now moving on to everyone else. We have Lisa Beal joining us from Holland, Michigan. Welcome, ma'am. You have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
My husband and I have been seasonals at Fisherman's Landing and Campground for the past 8 seasons, and I have also been working in the office for the past 8 seasons. So next year will be our 9th season that Fisherman's Landing and Campground has been our summer home and job. To say that Fisherman's Landing and Campground means a lot to us would be an understatement. It is my understanding that if the proposal were to pass, the campground would be eliminated, but the launch would remain the same. Except, of course, for the 2 rows of parking that would be eliminated, the pavilion may be torn down and moved, the office would be closed, the dump station would be no longer, and the boaters would now have to deal with the commercial traffic. So in fact, the launch would not remain the same at all. I've seen the other city launches and they just don't compare to Fisherman's Landing. And I know I'm not the only one who thinks this way because I hear comments like that all the time. Our team takes great pride in the constant care and monitoring of not only the campground, but also the grounds around the parking lot, the boat launch, the dump station, the pavilion, the kiosk, the restrooms, and the fish station. My concern is that the DPW isn't going to be able to give the hours of care needed to keep it looking like the beautiful, well-maintained launch that it is today. The fish station alone can be a full-time job July through September to monitor, maintain, and clean. As far as the kiosk, yes, it is self-sustaining like the other kiosks at the other city launches, except that in our office at Fisherman's Landing, we are able to offer boaters annual senior discounts and annual resident discounts, as well as the annual stickers. It would be very disappointing if that service was no longer available to our boaters at a convenient location such as a launch. Every season, we have several campers that ask us where they should go and what they should do while in Muskegon. We always send them to our downtown restaurants, breweries, shops, museums, farmers market, all conveniently located just a mile away. I noted that it was stated that tracking had been done on the foot traffic of our campers in 2020. I have a very hard time understanding why we would use data from 5 years ago when our campground continues to grow every year, but even harder to understand is why we would use this information when it was collected during COVID. Everything downtown was closed. Maybe I misunderstood something there. I'd like to touch on whether Fisherman's Landing and Campground is a public or private campground. I can assure you it is in fact a very public campground. Yes, you have to pay just like any other campground, but if you were to call the office phone number tomorrow and leave a message, I will personally call you back, collect your deposit, and get you booked for the 2026 season, except for Unity. We have a wait list. I can add you to that. Lastly, I have to ask, are we really supposed to sit back and accept the fact that Fisherman's Landing and Campground being swapped with a boardwalk over contaminated land is considered a fair trade? It seems unacceptable to me. Please vote no.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate you joining us this evening. Next up, we have Darlene DeHootie joining us from the City of Norton Shores. Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening, welcome. I support saving Fisherman's Landing and Campground for the following reasons, and I also would like to ask you to please not be exclusionary, because you seem to not care about non-residents, campers, fishermen, tourists, and the growing homeless, but all of the public has value. And as Mrs. Larson pointed out, there's a lot of people across the nation that care about this issue, and they also care about Fisherman's Landing remaining as it is. So tonight, I'm going to bring you 138 more names and addresses of people, and that will now equal 1,886 people who do not want this to go through. Here are some things people haven't considered, I do believe, and number one is climate change. And I'd like to quote from the 2025 State of the Climate Report. We are hurtling toward climate chaos. The planet's vital signs are flashing red. The consequences of human-driven alterations of climate are no longer future threats, but are here now. This unfolding emergency stems from failed foresight, political inaction, unsustainable economic systems, and misinformation. Almost every corner of the biosphere is reeling from intensifying heat, storms, floods, droughts, or fires. The window to prevent the worst outcomes is rapidly closing. End quote. We don't have 5, 10, 25 years to rearrange downtown Muskegon. We need to help people with survival needs. And climate change will affect Muskegon. We're not an island unaffected. Each community will have its set of problems. Please turn your attention and taxpayers' money to supporting energy, clean water, food, shelter, and transportation locally. Second is the economy. The United States national debt is $38 trillion and climbing by the second. Budget deficit is $1,768 billion and climbing. Our national government is in chaos. Grant funding could be non-existent. 3, the freighter industry. Lake Michigan ships are Lakers, which ballast water is unregulated. This could be a problem. I realize they dump it elsewhere, but nevertheless. Refrigerated freighter containers leak PFAS worldwide. That could be a problem. The national government's take on tariffs is another chaotic situation which will affect trade everywhere. 4, a Muskegon Maritime Museum with all 3 ships and a multi-million-dollar effort, and Silversides and the Milwaukee Clipper are not being on board. We don't have the money or the time to accomplish this. So it's nice if that would happen, but I don't think it is going to. And also, Commissioner Gorman should recuse herself because she is definitely in a direct conflict of interest with the public.
Thank you, Ms. DeHootie. Appreciate you joining us this evening.
Thank you, and I'll give you these later.
Next, we have Nicole Hudson joining us from Muskegon Township. Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Hudson, and I represent all of the homeless community in this county. And none of them want you to sell the land. I've talked to them because I see them every single day. Okay. Is this the Hunger Games? Because you have police officers running around, going around policing the homeless, and you don't have to sell Fisherman's Landing, and I'm going to tell you why. Because studies from Harvard University say that if you house the homeless, it is going to cost you 3 times less than to police them. We need to be respecting our police officers and not treating them like they have to do that kind of a job. You're going to get more tax revenue if you house them, and you won't have to sell Fisherman's Landing. You're stealing the land from the county residents of Muskegon. The residents that I spoke to have talked about the fact that when you obtained this land, you said that every person on Jackson Hill was going to be allowed to use it for fishing and to be there. So now you're going to sell it to some wealthy businessmen? For what? Many people in the state of Michigan call Muskegon County mini Detroit because of the crime. Why do they call it that? Because you don't take care of the people. Last year we had 4 homeless people die in the cold because you guys opened up shelters for them to stay warm during the day but not at night. These are the photographs that I took. These photographs I took of a man named Mike Fursky. His hands are black and he had to have his fingers amputated. You need to take care of the people that you have right now, and the city will flourish. Detroit is not any better after they made all of those constructions. Why? Because they don't take care of their people. Your tax revenue comes from the citizens of Muskegon County. And if you treat them like trash and you don't take care of them and their fingers look like this, you have no business making decisions on the land that we own. And you should respect our law enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate you joining us from Muskegon Township. Have a nice evening. Next up, we have Trevor Friedeberg joining us from the city of Northern Shores. Good evening, and you have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
Good evening, everyone. Apologize for the voice. It's that time of year. Mayor Commissioners, thank you all for this opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Trevor Friedeberg, and I have the pleasure of serving as the CEO of Greater Muskegon Economic Development, and I'm here to voice support for Fisherman's Landing and Martok land swap concept, a transformational opportunity that Muskegon has been working on and towards for decades at this point. Since most of the lakeshore is privately owned, opportunities to reclaim the lake and create public access rarely present themselves. Martok has come forward as a willing partner with the city, recognizing its long-term future is better positioned in a more industrial setting in a different spot in the lake, allowing for the core downtown to have additional opportunities. This forward-thinking approach creates conditions for them to grow, modernize, and expand their operations, so there's definitely economic development associated with their plans moving forward. With an updated footprint, Martok will be positioned to move their product, attract new business, create additional jobs and opportunities for residents of the community. At the same time, project has the power to unlock something really incredible and important in the community, and that is real meaningful public access to Muskegon Lake. If we seize this moment to connect the city more directly with the waterfront, we will activate a new era of community impact. Opening the shoreline creates opportunities for more people to live, work, and play in Muskegon. It expands access to recreation. It leads to new public gathering spaces and additional green space. And it sends a powerful message that Muskegon is fully stepping into its potential as a true waterfront community in the state of Michigan. The $2.8 million grant funds available to support this effort only magnify the importance of acting on this now. This type of strategic investment does not come around often, and by moving forward, the city positions itself to enhance public amenities as well as catalyze a new private investment and economic activity along the lakeshore. And with Muskegon Lake recently being removed from the EPA's area of concern list, there's no better time to show that Muskegon is ready to capitalize on its progress and momentum and reinvest in its future of its waterfront. Land swap is more than just a real estate transaction. It's a long-term development strategy that benefits residents, businesses, and future generations. It preserves industrial capacity while unlocking new community assets. It supports job creation while enhancing quality of life. And it reclaims the shoreline in a way that reflects the values and vision of a growing, forward-looking Muskegon. So I urge you to move this concept forward and seize this rare moment and opportunity. Thank you for your leadership and your continued commitment to building a stronger, more connected Muskegon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Friedenberg. Appreciate you joining us from Northern Shores and sharing the perspective of Greater Muskegon economic development. All right. Before I move on to another topic, is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to give public comment on Fisherman's Landing? Okay. Kindly come up, sir. We have Jonathan Wilson joining us from the NIMS neighborhood.
Good evening, everyone. Jonathan Wilson, 1067 West Grand. I'm a resident of the city, and I just wanted to voice my support, not as a DTE employee and not as a member of any boards that I'm on, but I wanted to voice support for this development because it's going to be great. It's going to connect our downtown to the waterfront, and it's going to actually enhance our access to the waterfront. And I just wanted to say, whatever questions you have, whatever holdups you have, get those questions answered. But I'm hoping that this commission makes the right decision here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. I saw another hand up here. David Straw joining us from Beechwood Bluffton neighborhood. And you have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks, sir.
The one thing I'm still hung up on is that I have not heard anyone say, what is the cost of the project? The cost to, improve the Mark Dock property. The one other quick question I've got too is that we're expanding the amount of sidewalk, as one other gentleman mentioned. Do you take away the views you can't see because you have boats parked along the property? Or is that part of the square footage too? Because I think what I saw on one of the maps showed boats parked along the sidewalk around the mart, okay? But the other thing is I don't see where the other cost. What's the cost to remediate the park area? And as we kind of goes into, has Eagle been involved with that? Because that's sort of a toxic dump right now. And so the cost of these projects I just haven't heard much about. And I'm going, how do you pay for that? Where's the funding coming from? I mean, I think there's like 3 or 4 cost areas that you're looking at, but no one has said what they are. So it becomes, where's the funding come from? I've heard revenue sharing, I've heard grants. Are the grants submitted yet? When will the grants be known? 6 months from now? It's going to fall on the general fund and fall on the improvement fund. Those are tax dollars already probably that the city has, which you're going to take away from other programs to invest in a one-shot area. I think that's where I'm missing. I worked 40 years in manufacturing, and we always had to total cost our projects out. We had to know what the projected cost was going to be. Here's the cost. How are you going to pay for it? What's the return on the investment? And I've not seen any of that. And that's really what's kind of hanging me up a little bit, because I just don't understand how the city can make these kind of decisions without any cost information and funding information going on. And like I said, Eagle's the other one sitting there because they're going to have to approve if what they say in the question and answer, any dredging taking place, minimal dredging. What does that mean? How much does that cost, I think too, I wasn't really gonna direct anything this way, but it's about also bringing people to parks and fishing. Well, right now, if you look at some of our parks, I went to Smith Ryerson, I went to, the other one over in Jackson Hill. They look a lot different than the parks over where I live. I grew up in Lakeside with McGrath, Cyphers. I live in Beechwood. The parks look different. I think a lot of improvements should go to the park system. Lastly, there's fishing access is really minimal. The DNR said it's woefully deficient. So I'm just saying that should be taken into consideration. We need those funds too to pay for those things, to bring people to the water and the ports and fishing.
Appreciate you joining us this evening. All right, I've got a few public comment forms on other items, but before I go to them, one last call for comments on this subject, an agenda item from the audience. We'll get to the phones in a moment, so folks waiting in the wings to call in on this subject, you'll get your opportunity. First,
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, did I see another hand? Oh, yes. Yes, please, introduce it. Kathy Maynard from Glenside Neighborhood, correct?
No, I'm from Roosevelt Park.
Oh, you're
but-
Roosevelt Park. See, I was going
Yeah.
to give you residency.
But what my question is, like with the funding and all, I mean, can you delay the decision till you find that out before you guys actually hurry up and vote it in? I mean, as far as what it's going to cost to clean up the site, because you're going to have to clean that up before they can use it and that sort of thing?
This is just an opportunity for folks to give their input directly to the commission. You may pose questions, but we're not going to answer questions right now, so it's not Q&A or back and forth engagement. But you're welcome to elaborate any other thoughts or pose questions that we may address later. When we get
I
to
just was
the
hoping
discussion.
that you, hopefully you guys will be looking into the costs first before you actually decide on the, project itself, because I'm thinking with the remediation of, it could cost a lot of money, and do they have the funds with all that's going on right now, and, and money being cut to programs, and so that's all I wanted to ask and say.
Thank you. Appreciate you joining us from Roosevelt Park. And perhaps you'll consider moving to Glenside. It's a great neighborhood. All right, we're going to move on.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'm sorry, point of information. Do you want to let the public know that we're not voting on this today?
Yeah.
On that topic?
Yeah, well,
I know that some people know, but everybody might not know.
Yeah, well, it's not anticipated we're voting on. Of course, any commissioner may make a motion, but I don't anticipate that happening. No, the city manager is presenting on this item, the updated agreement tonight, and we'll have discussion. We're not ready for phone-in comments just yet. The city manager is presenting tonight the updated proposal, and the commission will have an opportunity to ask questions and share their thoughts. But it's not anticipated that we'll be voting on this matter tonight, that it will be December 9th that we'll be voting on this, potentially, maybe coming to us December 9th for a vote. All right, we're going to move on to John Jackson, who's joining us from Northville, speaking with regard to the building services contract.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission members. Thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. As you know, we submitted a proposal to help the city of Muskegon with their building services. And it was suggested to us by Chief Gazelle that we come and introduce ourselves. So, my name's John Jackson. I'm president of McKenna. And with me tonight also is Sam Woodrick. He's the director of our building department services. So we thought it might be a good idea, again, to introduce ourselves. This is a huge decision for the city of Muskegon in terms of their building department operations at an extremely important time for the city, considering all the exciting projects that the city has going on. I think the city deserves to have a building department that functions in line with all of those exciting projects. McKenna has been around for 47 years. We've provided building department services for nearly 15 years, community development, planning, and economic development services for those full 47 years. So the building services that we provide work hand in hand in a lot of communities with the other depth of resources that we provide in terms of community development, economic development, and so forth. We have an incredible depth of resources at our disposal. We have currently nearly 80 building professionals that range from building officials, building inspectors, all the trades, permit technicians, as well as specialty inspectors. So we have a very deep bench and range of resources available to help the city of Muskegon. And the most important part of our success over those 47 years has been the people that we have available to help you. And they look to become a partner with the community, become engaged in the community, helping citizens and business people understand the operations of the building department and see how we can help the city grow in that area. So again, This is a very important decision for the city of Muskegon and a very important part in your development. So we would really welcome the opportunity to discuss our background in more detail with you. We've brought some handouts that we can hand to the clerk to distribute, but we'd really request that you take this item off the consent agenda so that we have more opportunity to talk to you about the depth of services that we have and how we think that aligns with where you guys are at this very important time in your development. Dan, you have anything? Dan?
No, I've got a few seconds.
That was perfect, John.
All right, excellent. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Appreciate you joining us this evening. Next up, we have Steve Burns and Glenn Lindsay joining us from Bunker Hill Township. I don't know if you wish to give public comment now, or if you wish to be brought up. Presumably, someone's going to pull this from the consent agenda. If you want to address it at that time, since you are the recommended contractor, you're welcome to address at that time. And the commissioners may wish to also hear further from the McKenna Group. But you're welcome to speak now and again, or wait till the consent agenda gets
I'd like to
pulled.
do both if needed. Just
right.
wanted to, Mr. Mayor, thank you, and commissioners, thank you for having us here. Just wanted to say 13 years ago, we started working with the city of Muskegon and started up building department services and other service lines in the building department, community development department. I was here actually for the startup. I was your interim building official while we waited for our full-time gentleman to start. But Safe Built's been providing building department services since 1992. We also have a full suite of services for engineering, planning and zoning, and all of those things that we can support you. We're over 82 employees in the state of Michigan, and we serve 62 different communities that we're under contract with, but we've been a full-service provider for the city of Muskegon's building department for years, and just wanted to say thank you for that. And on the agenda item, we want to, work with the city, continue going forward, and keep the strong relationship we've built, being responsive and being there for you and addressing needs as they arise. Been heavily involved in all the development here, and we have a ton of staff with that expertise that can help you. Need to pull more resources in to help you out.
So I'd like to just quickly highlight, I'm Glenn Lindsay, I'm the Midwest Director of Operations for Safe Built. And Safe Built's 13-year partnership with the City of Muskegon, it extends well beyond the building department services that we offer. We've delivered professionalism, expertise, and community engagement through educational programs, outreach, and charitable initiatives. As dedicated members of the communities that we serve, we believe in giving back and actively supporting local events and initiatives that benefit both you and your residents. Some examples of how Safe Built has supported the city of Muskegon are your National Night Out. Safe Built has donated food for the annual event. We're also have taken place in the bike rodeo, where we've donated bike helmets to children in the community to promote safety and work with local Boys and Girls Club. We also have been involved with your staff ice cream social. We volunteer our time. Our staff members volunteer their time to support that engagement. We're also part of the city summer cookout, where Safe Built proudly donated the pig, and I was actually able to attend that event this year. It was a wonderful event. In addition to that, we've donated fire blankets. Safe Built enhances community safety by donating fire blankets to the Muskegon Fire Department, supporting effective electric vehicle fire suppression. We're also an active member of your Chamber of Commerce, and with representatives from our leadership team attending your chamber meetings as schedules have allowed. So if Safe Built is the selected provider, like Steve said, we'd like to continue this partnership that we've had with you for 13 years. We feel like we've been very involved in the community. We've also been cognizant of the needs. We have a really good working relationship with the city staff. So anytime they've expressed something that they need, we've stepped up to the plate.
Yeah. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate you joining us this evening. Another public comment forum on this item. We have Tom DePung joining us from Northern Shores. Where's Mr. DePung? Oh, there you are.
Thank you, Matt.
Welcome, sir.
Here is a project manager for Nassau Construction that's been at 986 Pine Street or 990 Pine Street for about the last 13 years when Safe Built came in. And it was a rough transition, I'm sure, for a lot of the bigger contractors. We do mostly grant-funded programming from senior citizens to senior millage to lead abatement, and worked with the Department of Agriculture with senior citizens as well. That's how we got our foot in the door. And since then, we've had a wonderful relationship with them with the change of leadership over the last several years. We're grateful that Ron's back here, and there's good momentum going. They have been here since the big swing, and things have been on the uptick, so that's a blessing for all of us, I think, and they do seem to care about public relations and helping donations to the different things he just said about. And another thing, these citizens of the city and around the county are also the employees of Safe Built, so that's nice to keep that hopefully in place as you ponder, and I'm very glad that the staff has recommended that. We've had a couple issues over the years, but they've always been accessible from the leadership to the inspectors, so it was just simply a phone call and sitting down. A conversation can change many things, and it's just getting the clear view of what the code says and how I interpret it or how they interpret it, but coming to an understanding of it, you have to follow it. So I'm grateful that Ron Johnson's back here, and I'm hoping that the relationships we've established with them and the city will continue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you joining us from Marin Shores and representing Nassau Construction based in the city of Muskegon. All right, one more public comment form. We're turning to Fisherman's Landing topic, and we have Jamie Cross joining us from the NIMS neighborhood. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Sorry I'm a little bit late, but I'm here. So when Fisherman's Landing when I first understood this swap, this was not this year, this was just 3rd Street Wharf and Fisherman's Landing. I was definitely opposed to all of it because I felt like you were taking a piece of public property from a community away. And so what this has changed for me is the additional purchase of the Verplank property. And I think we need to think about this as an opportunity, not just for public access to the lake, which is, as you know, from my perspective, is incredibly important to this community, especially since it is this community that has put forth the energy to revitalize the lake, and the residents here deserve access to the lake. And it will be a greater value, long run, economically for this community. I also think it's an opportunity for the lake, because this is an opportunity to create more green space. And if the Verplank property goes to a high-end development, we are going to go backwards there. And when we don't have the green space is going to be really important. Climate change, I'd heard climate change mentioned today. The lake is already seeing impacts from climate change today. And so as we move forward with these opportunities and new developments, what I would love to see is us really start to think outside of the box, outside of the regulations, and look for ways to reduce inputs to the lake. So this is an opportunity, again, to look at innovative technologies and stick to them to protect this lake, because without it, we have no economy, we have no way of life, and we have no culture. So I hope you think about this as an opportunity, because initially, when the plan was proposed, with the swap between 3rd Street and Fisherman's Landing only, I was like a direct no. But there are other opportunities here today, and I hope we'll consider that going forward. And I do think it would be good for the lake, but we need to make that happen too. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Cross. Appreciate you joining us. All right. Last call for anyone from the audience wishing to give in-person public comment this evening on an agenda item or items. Seeing no takers, we're going to go to the phones. That phone number is 231-724-6721. When you're calling in, please turn down any audio in the background. When we answer, please share your name. And if you're a City of Muskegon resident, which neighborhood you're joining us or calling us from. And if you're not a City of Muskegon resident, which other township, city, or village you're calling from. Or state or country.
You have a call? Lindsay Reed.
Good evening. You're with the City of Muskegon City Commission.
Hi, this is Kyle Reed from Norton Shores, property owner at 3rd Street. And I just wanted to comment on the land swap, basically. So initially, the concept of extending 3rd Street down to the lakefront, that's a win. You know, objectively, businesses on 3rd Street, we stand to profit from that kind of development over the next decade. But here's the thing, Third Coast Vinyl, Griffin's Rest, Hamburger Mikey, we oppose the land swap. And the reason behind that is, as businesses of downtown Muskegon, we feel that the city makes the deals that require good faith and positive intent, and that we should maintain a level of respect for elected representatives of the city when things are contentious. When a business entity acts in an unprofessional and antagonistic manner towards the city, it reflects poorly on the business community as a whole. We've seen actions that lead us to believe that Sam Products Corporation is acting in bad faith by attempting to intimidate dissenting voices in an effort to achieve a desired business outcome. So that's what this is. When someone attempts to intimidate the community's elected representative, people's voice, they're attempting to silence that community as a whole. I don't think that's how we should do business here. When you reward that behavior, it tells you those tactics are effective. And that makes it a best practice for future businesses as we continue to develop and grow. So businesses will come in, they'll say, that's how you do it here. That's how they'll continue to do it. So respectfully, we are asking respectfully, because that's how you do it, for the city council to please vote no on the land swap.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Appreciate you phoning in your comments.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Derek Olson.
Good evening. We're the City of Muskegon City Commission.
Hello. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. How you doing tonight?
Doing well. Thank you for calling in from Lakeside. You have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
I'm glad you recognized my voice or my caller ID at this. Derek Olson from Lakeside. I am just calling to urge this commission to slow down this project of the land swap. I understand the intent, and I understand that a lot of people have shifted over to having a positive opinion about it. I am not one of those people. I believe that we have a millions and millions of dollar resource with our lake and our lakefront, and I think we really need to think about how we want it to look in the future. And I know that there's some people who think this is a wonderful idea. I don't think giving away any extra property to developers and doing this land swap that involves ending the campground era is a good idea. And I just hope that the commission will slow this roll down. We've done so much development on the lake. We have no idea what the carrying capacity of the boats that are continuing to be put down there. And as far as I understand, part of that property is going to be another big in and out boat service. And I just think we keep adding and adding and adding, and that just like the industrial pollution that generations ago dumped into the lake and ruined it, we may be ruining it with boat and marina pollution. And I think that we need to slow down and take a look at the projects we've already done and the projects that we already have that aren't completed yet, that are going to add more and more and more boats. I've boated on lakes where you have no room to even navigate or drive around, and my fear is that Muskegon Lake is not that big. It feels big, and when you're out there, it's good right now, but if there are tons and tons of boats, if we double and triple and quadruple the number of boats on the lake, it's going to detract from it. It's going to take away from the things that we enjoy. And like Becky Cross said, or Miss Cross, Jamie, I'm sorry, said, you know, it's the future. It's our way of life. It's so important to this community, and I would hate to see us spoil it with, you know, innumerable boat service in and outs into Muskegon Lake. And so please, please, please take the time to put the brakes on. If this is still a good project and everybody wants to be nice in the future, which they should do, developers should be kissing our butts to put these things down there, not being arrogant and ridiculous sometimes. And I just feel like we need to hold the line on this one, man, and wait a little bit longer and see what's going to happen over this next season or two. And so I really appreciate all you guys' service to the community, and thank you for the opportunity to call in over the phone.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. Appreciate you calling in.
Yep, have a good night.
Take care. Heard a couple more people trying to call in.
We have right now.
Good evening. You're with the City of Muskegon City Commission. Please turn down the audio in the background and state your name and which agenda items you're speaking on.
Hi, thank you, Mayor. Jennifer Hodges, Muskegon County Housing Coordinator. Sorry I couldn't make it in person tonight. As you know, I have dual roles, so sometimes I can't be in two places at once. I wanted to speak in regards to consent agenda item G, building inspection services. Muskegon County submitted a proposal, and being that it was our first submission of a proposal for a new program, and with only a few weeks to prepare the proposal, we understandably fell a little short in scoring. Don't worry, there's no hard feelings. But we still look forward to our continued other partnerships and collaboration. But if you choose to go with Safe Built, I do encourage you to consider a shorter contract. I'd like you to see that their standards of customer service and consistent enforcement being proposed are actually met. And in the meantime, Muskegon County will continue to build a regional program to offer consistent inspections throughout the county to all communities interested, which will help contractors and landlords receive consistent enforcement and services and keep revenues local and not out of state. So hopefully we have the opportunity to submit a proposal again in a year or two. And again, thank you for reviewing our proposal, and I wish City and the Safe Built, if that's who you choose to go with, luck in your new contract.
Thank you, Mrs. Hodges. Appreciate you phoning in your comments.
Thank you.
You get another couple moments for any additional phone-in comments. All right. Doesn't sound like we have any more takers for phone comments. That will conclude our public comment period on agenda items. Commissioners, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that you wish to have removed for separate consideration and vote? Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Item B. Let's go over to item G, of course. And I do J.
Commissioner Kilgo.
Item H is in Henry.
Any other items, commissioners? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented and approve it, minus items B, G, H, and J. We have a motion by Commissioner Kilgo, supported by Commissioner Cochin. There's no discussion. Roll call, please.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. First item, B, cost of living adjustments for non-union employees. Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Move to approve the 3.0 wage increase for non-union employees effective January 1st, 2026.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner German, supported by Commissioner Cochin. Good evening, sir. If you kindly introduce yourself and please report on this item.
Good evening. My name is Kenneth Grant. I'm Finance Director for the City of Muskegon. I like to project that we get a 3% raise for non-union, non-represented people for the city. We base this number on the number that we got from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. The rate of inflation has been going up about 3% for the year through September. Our numbers are good through September. So we just based on that, we recommend that we give non-represented employees a 3% raise effective January 1st.
Thank you, Director Grant. Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Director Grant. You mentioned inflation. That was one of my main concerns with the price of everything increasing. Is the 3% increase, I would say, is that justified, or adjustable, or justifiable for meeting the needs of these employees due to things?
Yeah, based on the CPI, which was that we looked at for the Midwest region, that's what the 3% was what the 12-month rolling CPI was for this region.
Okay.
So that pretty much will keep up with the cost of inflation.
Is there any discretionary wiggle room to make it even higher?
Based on what we did a cost analysis. So we looked at the cost. Actually, this based on the number of turnover of staff or something. Actually, this 3% is actually it's weird that it's going to save us some money, but we have some cost savings because we lost some employees and things like that, and some of our things, our benefits are saved us some money. So actually, we're saving money with this 3% raise.
Right. So due to the cost of loss of benefits and the turnover, that does give other, I guess, revenue to increase even more if the discretionary actions was actually taken.
Yes, but like what we did every year, we do a budget analysis and things like that. So this is kind of within our wheelhouse, and so this 3% will actually save us some money in other areas, but we don't know how other areas are going to impact us, like healthcare and other things that may come up. So right now, this will be, I would say, budget neutral at this point.
Yeah, just kind of curious. Thank you for that information. Because I do see everything's going up in a lot of places except wages. And the times that we're living in right now, who knows if we're even going to have jobs, the way the economy's going. So thank you for that report, that information.
Thank you, Commissioner Sherman. Before I go to you, Commissioner Cochin and Vice Mayor St. Clair, just a question of clarification, because it was mentioned that with the 3% we're saving money. As I understand from the report here, the cost savings is primarily because of some changeover in staff. We've lost some employees due to resigning or retirement, and the new employees that we replace them are starting at a lower pay rate, and that's what's accounting for the cost savings. And that if we were to do, say, the 2.3%, which we originally budgeted, the cost savings would be greater than if we do 3%. So it's not intrinsically tied to the 3% necessarily. I just want to get confirmation. That's the case. Okay, thank you, sir. Commissioner Cochin?
That answers one of my questions. No, I think that this is a good move, especially if we're going to be, net neutral as far as the budget goes with those cost savings. So I'm in support of this.
Thank you, Commissioner Cochin. Vice Mayor St. Clair?
Thank you. I just want to clarify that this is specifically for the non-union employees. It's not all of the employees, and the union employees have their own bargaining agreements.
Other bargaining units have their raises negotiated with their contracts. Non-union is the only one that does not have it.
Okay, so if we arbitrarily decided tonight to increase this to 5%, that would be an injustice to the rest of the employees. Or would we be able to?
Well, we're independent of those contracts, so it would be up to us, but this is what we recommended as staff. So we have not did a cost analysis on 3 or 4, other percentages besides 3. So that's what I'm recommending at this point.
So this is a smaller chunk of the overall city staff. It's not.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioners? I was going to piggyback on something you just said, and then you said smaller pool. What was the previous thing you said? Historically, we have, when we've made adjustments, cost of living adjustments for non-union employees, we tie it to parity so that it's not any greater than increases given to our union employees. Which brings me to one question, because you mentioned in the supporting documents here, we have information with regard to the Midwest adjustments, and we see the breakdown for all items, food and beverages, food, housing, shelter, so on and so forth. And then we see at the bottom of that the CPI for the nation as a whole, and that is showing a 3% increase for all items year over year. But when we look at a more localized area, such as presented in here, the Detroit, Warren, Dearborn area, we see that all items, there's a 0.7%, so 0.7% increase year over year. Given that one of our union contracts has a COLA adjustment that is tied to that particular area, as I understand it, I'm wondering about the differential. And perhaps City Manager, I see him wanting to chime in.
So in In the Unit 2 contract, there is a tie to CPA. However, it's tied to two things. It's a set increase or CPI, whichever is higher, and that's in their current contract, which expires at the end of this year. The negotiating team is currently negotiating with the Unit 2 to get a new contract, which will go for the next several years, where we're still working out what those wage adjustments would be.
Okay, so it's not specific.
Correct.
Whichever is greater, so it's not tied specifically to that
hold
particular
on.
statistical area.
Okay, yes. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, I misread the deputy manager's face for a second, so I apologize.
Thank you for
Yes.
that clarification. Given this, though, like I'm a little hesitant to bump it up 3% since we budgeted 2.3%. I know that we've got the wiggle room because you've just said due to some changes in staff that we have replaced with a lower wage rate, that we're realizing some cost savings in the budget for this fiscal year. So we have the flexibility, the fiscal flexibility to pay at a higher rate, such as 3%. I'm not advocating that we drop it down to 0.7%, 0.7%, that is reflected for our statistical area year-over-year cost, particularly because a couple years ago when we raised the cost of living, we raised it less than the actual national CPI at that point. And so I'm okay with the 2.3%. I'm struggling a little bit with bumping it up to 3%, although I think our staff do a great job. You're worth every penny, but I also understand that we have going into a certain some uncertain economic times in this next fiscal year. And I know that we have needs for greater investment in our public safety professionals. Some of us would like to see higher staffing in fire protection services. And we're needing to continuously increase the compensation package for our police force so that we can be attracted and retained. I just learned last night about another officer. I was at my neighborhood association meeting when I learned about another of our community neighborhood police officer leaving in next month and going to Grand Rapids. And Grand Rapids stopped poaching our officers. My goodness gracious. And so it's giving me a little bit of pause. I know this is not a huge amount of money here, but in terms of recognizing all the other fiscal needs and priorities in public safety, I'd be more inclined to approve the 2.3% that we budgeted versus upping it to 3%. But that's my perspective, and I just wanted to share it. Yes, Mr. Manager.
So I was pulling up some of the contracts quick. Since we just did adjustment to the two police contracts, I'm not going to look at those because I can't do the math that quick in my head. But firefighter contract goes up 3% this year, and that was after a wage reset the previous year. Clerical goes up 5% this year. So the 3% for non-union staff would be in line with where the firefighter increase would be as well. And there have been instances in the past, prior to my time here, where the non-union staff receive smaller or sometimes no wage increases. So this isn't inconsistent with what our unions are getting.
Understandable. Appreciate that. And we're not exceeding what we are offering. My view has not changed though. With regard to 2.3%, but I appreciate that additional context. Commissioner Chairman, you had something to add?
Yeah. And thank you, City Manager, for providing that information. And thank you, Director Grant, again, for your calculations and what you do. The 3%, yes, I can agree with that. And the only reason I asked about, the discretion to increase it, if that was to take place, is due to hardships and what's going on. I couldn't vote on nothing less than 3%, and that's where I'm standing. But we definitely need to look at how we could also accommodate our employees and try to keep them here, and also at the same time make sure they are comfortable where they want to come to work because they're getting a decent wage and they see that the city respects them and are going to treat them fairly and right, but they may not be in that job that they want at this point in time, but at the same time they're making a decent wage, so I can support that 3%.
Thank you, Commissioner German. Any final thoughts before we go to vote? Commissioner Kilgo.
Thank you. Director, roughly how many employees fall into this non-union category?
I want to, it's about 50, I want to say about 52.
Okay. I'm in line to agree with Commissioner German, like, cost of living for everyone is super important. And I'm glad that our firefighters negotiated a good contract. Our police officers did just get a small bump increase in their pay, even though I think that they could negotiate more. You know, that's what budgets do. We have to budget everyone. But if we have 50-something employees that fall in this category, then that's 50 people that we want to retain working for the city of Muskegon. So I don't have a problem with the 3%.
Thank you, Commissioner Kogo.
Thank you.
The pool is a little larger than I thought at 50 some employees. Nonetheless, given our history of essentially doing parity for union increases, I will support the 3% tonight, but with the caveat that I think going forward, as we're updating our union contracts, we really need to be looking at a more localized cost adjustment, not the national, because the costs in our area and our state are different than the national average, and
This is based on the Midwest one, I'm sorry.
well, no, the national one's 3%. The Midwest, if you look in the
Okay.
Midwest, all items for this particular Detroit, Warren, Dearborn, the increase year over year is 0.7%. It's 0.7% for the Midwest, specific to, because there's two Midwest. There's Chicago Midwest, and then there's Detroit Midwest. The information that's presented in this package is Detroit Midwest, and for all items, we saw an adjusted a 0.7% increase year over year. At the bottom of it, we see 3% national CPI. And so that's what I just want to reference and encourage that as and the union contracts typically refer to just CPI blanket. There's only that one that specifies the more localized region, and then it says, as the Mr. Manager shared, it's the greater of the two. And so I just want to encourage that as we're looking at updating these contracts to potentially make them more localized and reflective of the true cost of living increases in our area. So, thank you, sir. Roll call, please.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes,
Commissioner Kilgo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
thank you. Next up, G, contract award for building inspection services. Commissioner German.
All right, thank you, Mayor. I move to award Safe Build, the building inspection service contract.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner German, supported by Commissioner Kilgo. Good evening, sir. Kindly introduce yourself and report out on this item.
Good evening. Getting this booted back up, Tim Kozel, Public Safety Director. Well, tonight we're here to talk about the RFQ for the building department. Go a little bit into what our actual, I'm gonna go over what the RFQ actually had, just in a little bit of a snapshot. It was issued in September, due date was end of October. A snapshot of the scope of services that we requested was building official, which was defined, the scope of services, which we had a large list that we had, building department services, plan review services, and inspection services. So that's what we were asking for in the proposals that came to us. Evaluation criteria, this was something that we thought about. I met with other directors to try to figure out how we should hold these. Highest one was experience with municipal inspection services at 25%, approach to quality, responsiveness, and performance, 20. And as you can see, it then goes down from there, commitment to customer service, depth of proposed services, past performance, and then price competitiveness. I'm going to go over the three different proposals, just a snapshot of the actual proposals as a baseline for you. SAPO, which is our current building department, they currently have 15 full-time employees, 2 part-time employees, and 1 building official. They're based in Colorado. Of course, they've been here for, I think it was 13 years, 33 years total experience, 64 Michigan municipalities, and they're in 41 states with a plethora of clients and employees. Anna, 47 years of experience, as they indicated, 50 certified building officials from what I had in their RFQ or their proposal. Offices in Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Northville, I believe, is their base, and Detroit, and they're servicing 85 communities. Muskegon County, no previous experience yet in inspection services, as was indicated in the call. Their housing coordinator. There's some ambition, there's some thoughts. There was a lot of discussion in the actual proposal about what we could be or what could happen. However, as you saw, 25% was an experience in the municipal inspection area. So inspections team would operate under the county housing coordinator. In our RFQ, it actually indicated that our inspections team would operate under still through the chain through myself and up to the city manager. It would also necessitate hiring of a building official, and it would be housed out of the county building in their proposal. Decided to look at this instead of just through my own eyes. We decided to do objective analysis with 4 different people within the city of Muskegon. Director Ekholm, Director Wills, Deputy Director Jay Paulson, and myself all looked at all 3 proposals. And then I asked all of them to score it. I thought it'd be best to be able to do it that way. I will comment that Director Wills was very helpful in this proposal and looking at everything and projections. I really appreciate his assistance in that. Summarized scoring. We built that with the weight, as you can see, from 25 down through 10. The summarized areas, those are those bullet pointed areas that I'd already mentioned to you. This scoring was the average of all 4 of us put together and put on this score sheet. I even went to the depth to give this to Hayden to do my summary so that it would be outside of my hands to do the summary so we'd get a total objective analysis on this, okay? So as you can see, it was close. It was close between McKenna and Safe Built. Muskegon County, because of the lack of experience, made them a distant third, so. That's a quick snapshot. I know there's going to be some questions. I'd be glad to answer those questions as best I can. And if need be, I know we do have both companies here that are the recommended Safe Built and also McKenna if need be. So,
thank you, Chief Kozel. Commissioner German.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief Kozel.
No problem.
You talked about experience, and McKenna seems to have more experience. Did the board or whoever viewed the proposal consider experience in the projects that they did?
Certainly, yes. Okay. They both scored top 10 out of 10 on that on the experience level.
Yeah. So now Safe Built's been with us 13 years. 13 years. I've been on the commission close to 14 years now. So I remember when we had our in-house inspections. But now that, the development and we didn't have the capacity to keep up with all the momentum that's going on, so that made sense to work with Safe Built. I have some questions for Safe Built, a little later, so I'll just kind of pause right there. Okay. Yeah.
If I may, I'll comment on the experience since you brought that up. Some of the things that you look at is the overall experience and what Safe Built has brought to the table over the last 13 years, and some of the very large projects that they've been involved in here in the city.
Yeah.
To include Northern Biomedical, the hospital, and the current Shaw Walker development. And I think the partnerships that they've had with those, and those are just 3 large developments that we've had, have been very successful. We haven't had the issues. Haven't had any issues in those type of situations, so I think that really harkens towards the experience with Safe Built.
Yeah, large projects. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner German. Commissioner Kilgo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, we met yesterday, talked about this item a little bit. And I've had some time to think about it, and I am thinking maybe we might want to pull this item for further consideration. Here's some of my thinking. over the last few years, I've probably been one of the loudest complainants about Safe Build. But I have seen them address all of the issues that I brought up about Safe Build over the last 2 years since I've been on the commission. They've sat down with us and looked at some of the where we're missing the ball at, and they've fixed those items. But I also have I've heard from some folks around the county today where, yes, Muskegon County does not have the infrastructure necessarily in place right now, or they don't have the staff in place right now, but that there were a lot of people around the county who would actually love to join Muskegon County in a building department, but have stayed quiet in fear of retaliation or consequences from their current employer. If we do choose Safe Build or McKenna or another entity, I do agree with Ms. Hodges, our county housing coordinator, that we should keep the contract relatively short, not too short, but not too long. And you know, I personally am talking to our state legislators and about, you know, maybe changing some of the requirements for building inspectors in the state of Michigan to match those of the majority of the rest of the country, so that we can have the opportunity to hire more or retain more inspectors for our companies, you know, whether they're outsourced or not, because that is one thing that makes it hard for us to get good inspectors in the state of Michigan, is the state requirements for the state of Michigan. So the numbers here grading number 1 versus number 2, can you speak a little bit about the error that was brought up from McKenna in their application?
Certainly. One of the items that came up when we were examining the proposals was the proposal for cost of services. And when we were looking at that, we felt that there might have been an oversight on the part of McKenna, where there was possibly a zero that wasn't added to those. As a commission last year, when we extended the contract of the Safe Belt, we have our base of 80-20 split for cost of services, and then we went to a tiered, as projects got bigger, that we would retain a little bit more of that cost. So I think it was like, it would go to, I think, 77 or 78, something like that, when it hits like a 100 million mark. McKenna's the proposal that they presented to me had it at a 200,000 mark, where that would cost sharing would go down. That's a big difference, a huge difference, where I believe that it was an oversight on McKenna, and so I wound up reaching out and I wound up talking to Sam about it and just presenting to him. I'm saying, you know, this is a big oversight where it could be a lot more digits towards the city as far as cost recovery or cost retaining for that. So he was very forthcoming and advised that, yes, it is an oversight on their part, and wanted to present a new proposal for that. However, within our system, within our purchasing policy, it actually speaks to that directly, that once you actually receive any type of proposal, that you aren't allowed to, we aren't allowed as a city to accept anything different outside of that scope of that, within that 4 corners of that proposal. I appreciate it that they did want to be able to do that, but we had to stand with what their proposal is today.
And then, thank you for that. And then my last question about the county, as far as the way that they presented their proposal and what we asked for to what they presented, can you talk about that difference? As far as like oversight or reporting to?
The big thing is that we asked that we'd still stay with the same structure, is that the building official would report to the public safety director or the business model report through the public safety director, and theirs was public safety director. It would be a county-based system based out of the county, and everything would funnel through the county.
And here in the city of Muskegon, we're doing a lot of building and a lot of development. And I did want to speak to Safe Build's performance, the performance snapshot that's in their proposal, their numbers from 2024 to 2025. In 2024, 375 permits were issued. In 2025, 594 were issues. That was up 38%. In 24, 78 plans review were completed. 84 were completed in 2025. That's up 7.4%. And 616 inspections were completed in 24. 717 inspections were completed in 2025, so that was also up 15%. So again, I do want to state that I don't have anything against Safe Build. They're doing what I think as a city, being in real estate, a lot of people talk to me about our building department, and I've seen the growth and the improvement over the last year, and I really do appreciate that from them listening. And we have a lot of new projects coming to Muskegon, residential, commercial, different things like that, and they're keeping up. So they are doing the job and getting the job done. It was a difficult task, you and the other gentleman that worked on this. So thank you very much for your work on this. It's very complete. So thank you.
If I may?
Yes.
The one item you talked about, and I think both McKinnon and Safe Built, they deal with this, is Michigan's one of the only states in the whole United States that doesn't allow for reciprocity with building officials, with inspectors. I mean, it hampers businesses like McKinnon and Safe Built. So to be able to get good quality people, and that, I would agree, needs a change in Lansing so that we can afford any of these companies to be able to do that. And as far as your last point there, I think that it points out, as far as the responsiveness of Safe Build, there has been items that have come up. They're a regulatory division of the city, right? And a lot of people don't like regulations. It could be within my division, it could be within zoning. I mean, look at what we've had when we talked about zoning reform. We've had a lot of discussion here. People are not going to be happy, right? But I think that Safe Built has been very responsive. The communication has skyrocketed. We get quarterly reports. We meet with them quarterly. They're responsive to changes within the system, not just to follow the regulations, but how can we work with you as a builder or as a homeowner or as a large-scale developer to get the job done. So I think they've been very responsive to those needs of us as a city and of the citizens.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgo. Commissioner Kochin?
Yes, thank you, Chief Kozel. I'd like to echo some of Commissioner Kilgo's sentiments. I think that Safe Built has definitely done more work to obviously achieve fairly good scores here on this metric, but I have had constituents and business owners reach out to me with concerns about this item tonight. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about is Commissioner Kilgo's already touched on, but I'd like to see if you could expound on it a little bit more. Could you speak a little bit more about the cost sharing and when that kicks in? Because that was one of the concerns was, the Shaw Walker project is millions of dollars, and how much of that is being reinvested back here in the city of Muskegon versus going to Colorado?
Might not be able to speak to that last portion of your question. Okay, I apologize. I don't think I'd be able to speak to that, so. But I can speak to the actual fee schedule and what that actually means. So what we agreed as the proposal that came last year and the year extension is that for projects, it's 80% right now. For projects 100 million to 199 million, it'll be 80, it'll reduce to 75%. So then we will recoup 25% of those. That's the overall project. So I think that your comment about Shaw Walker, that'd be a project that's going to wind up eclipsing something like that, but it's the total project value. So once it eclipses that, we then wind up getting reimbursed more as a city from those fees.
Okay. And then the other question was in regards to the grading of the different buckets here for this summarized scoring. What was the grading process like as far as how do you get a 10 versus an 8 versus a 6 for experience with municipal inspections or approach to quality and responsiveness?
I think that your 10 is what we felt with the four of us is going to be your highest. So it's 1 through 10. So that's how the rating system was. So if you felt that they were hitting all the benchmarks in that area as a number one with the experience, they have all the experience to be able to do that in a municipal service area. So they would get the full 10. And because it's a 25% weight, that's where you get the 250 points.
Okay, so there wasn't certain metrics that you guys had to reach in order to give them a 10 or 8 or a 6. It was just kind of 1 through 10 based on your personal thoughts and feelings.
It wasn't on the personal thoughts and dealings, it was what we read within the four corners of that proposal.
Okay. I think that's the only question I have for you. I have questions for maybe Mr. Manager or Safe Belt. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cochin. Any other questions for Chief Kozel at this time? With regard to the fee schedule, cost proposal and the fee schedule, we heard that there was a typo in McKenna's proposal. You sought clarification. They sought to correct it, but our policy is no changes to proposals after they're being submitted. And so when you form your recommendation to the City Commission, you have to base it on the proposal as presented. But given the proposal was a much more generous cost share with the city, and you couldn't necessarily rely on that, like, did you ask them, will you honor this that's in your proposal? And they said, no, we cannot honor that?
I did not, no.
Okay.
In my take, and I communicated with Sam about that, that our policy prohibits from you accepting that and presenting it to you, that I think they'd only be here today is that they hopefully would honor that. I mean, it'd be a tough hill to climb for them as an organization, just to be really honest, but I'm not McKenna, so very tough hill.
Okay. Just to, if I may, very quickly, just to get confirmation of that right now, gentlemen with McKenna, that is not something you're able to honor.
Yes, we will honor that.
You would be willing to honor that cost share with the reduction or the lower share that you'd get beyond $200,000. Okay.
It does make it a radically more price competitive proposal, but yes, we would be willing.
Okay. Then I would need to see that cost schedule breakout. Is it similar to here that that after 200,000 it goes from 80% to 75%, and then goes further below? Actually, I have it. It's in my inbox. Let me pull that up. While I'm pulling that up, you said you had additional questions for Mr. Manager or Safe Built, Commissioner
Yes,
Cochin?
yeah. So, Mr. Manager, in regards to the question about how the money goes, to the city of Muskegon, do we have specific funds that goes into? Does that go into the general fund?
It's a general fund revenue.
It's a general fund revenue. Okay. And then the other funds, do we know? We ever talked to Safe Built about how their breakdown of expenses are? Does a lot of that stay here in the county or the city or?
Well, I do know that they have several employees who live in the city. They've got a number. Actually, I think almost all the employees live in the county or North Ottawa. So they're local. And then as far as like where they get office supplies and things like that, I can't speak to that. But I believe it's relatively local. So it Safe Build or any other entity that would be housed here, they really operate as a city department, and they use a lot of the same resources as we do. So, and their team members are local, so I know that they're shopping locally, going out to eat locally.
Okay. Do you know if McKenna? I mean, obviously Muskegon County, we kind of have an idea what they would be doing, but do we know if McKenna would be? doing something similar, or?
That would be a question for Chief.
Okay.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Do we know if McKenna has plans to have a similar model to the one that Safe Built has, where they're housed here in the city building and they're hiring city city residents and county residents?
Wasn't indicated specifically that they would just stand it up, have a building official, hire the right people for that. They have a transition team, current team that they have within their system that they would transition here.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say they would live in, or, work here in the city building. unless
Okay.
I missed.
All right. Thank you.
Well, and just for a clarification to add on to that, no employer can require people to live anywhere. So, if someone's driving in from Grand Rapids, or if someone wanted to drive in from Lansing every day, that's a possibility. But I do know that a lot of the folks are local. So, and I would expect that would probably end up being the same thing for
Under what
another contractor.
To piggyback on that, in what circumstances is it direct municipal employees that you can put a caveat that they have to live within so many miles of the county?
You can, for individuals that have an emergency response component to their job, you can require that they live within a 20-mile radius of the city limits.
Of the municipality itself?
Yes.
Okay.
So it gets a little interesting on how you define that sometimes, because for public safety, they obviously have a emergency response component to them, but they're scheduled, and so it's a little bit different. So generally, it would be folks like the chief of police, the city manager, deputy city manager, things like that. Generally, potentially, yeah.
So I just looked at the document that was shared. That's part of the McKenna building proposal, and it mentions for professional fees, we are proposing to provide these building department services in exchange for a percentage of the revenue collected by the building department. Please see payment for services section for details. I am not seeing that section in the document that I have. I might be overlooking it.
It's not in mine either.
Do you have that?
There is the overall cost, I think it's 82.5. I think it was the initial quote that is encompassing of everything. So there isn't a breakdown.
Okay, so
That
there's not a scale
that last
device.
caveat was to say if that's what you would like, if I remember correctly, but they're going to do everything within that 82.5.
So it's a flat fee, it doesn't scale. What would happen is it's 82.5% up to 200,000, and then after 200,000, it's what?
77.
Pardon me, Mr. Mayor, it should be the last page of the proposal, I believe, unless it was cut off, to keep that separate.
The last page I have is references in this document.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Okay, yeah. It's the back of the references page, so that's
Thank you, Chief.
all right. Oh, okay. I mean, this looks consistent across the board in terms of, so the tiered fee split, so it's 82.5% of fees collected by the building department each month. But then for permits with a construction value of $200,000 up to $350,000, the percentage of the fee split shall be reduced to 77.5%. For permits with a construction value of $350,001 up to $450,000, the percentage of the fee split shall be reduced to 72.5%. For permits with a construction value of $450,001 up to $550,000, the percentage of the fee split shall be reduced to 67.5%. And then between $550,001 up to $750,000, the percentage of the fee split shall be reduced to 62.5%. And then finally, for permits with a construction value in excess of $750,000, the percentage of the fee split shall be reduced to 57.5%. One caveat that I would point out between the proposal from Safe Built that's in our packet is they do specify that project is defined on the basis of an individual parcel ID number. Permit fees for work performed on each parcel shall be aggregated over the life of the project, and the aggregated amount used to determine the fee split below, which is 100 million to 199 million that we see it go from 80% to 75%, and then for each additional 100 million, you lose another 5% that they get, and then once you get to $500 million and above, it drops to 50%. And so this would be on a per permit. Can you give us some understanding around the permitting process? Because I see for the Safe Built offer, it is in the aggregate by parcel ID that the cost revenue will be calculated. As I understand and read the McKenna proposal, it's on a for permits with a construction value. So how would that, what would be the mechanics of that? When we talk about permits with a construction value, so it's tied to the individual permit, not necessarily in the aggregate, if I'm understanding correctly.
My discussions with Sam, they were trying, and I'm hoping, correct me if I'm wrong, is that they were trying to mirror what, they've never done this as a tiered before until they put into this request. So they're trying to mirror what is already in place with Safe Build in this last 1 year agreement. So from my understanding, they were just trying to mirror the same process, that it's an aggregate situation. And I'm correct, I might be wrong on that, but I think that's what it was, the totality of the actual cost of that construction.
If you could kindly come up to the microphone and just provide some clarification on that, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I can clarify. It is essentially the same breakdown. It would be by the construction value of the building permit. The difference is that that additional language will be worked out when we signed a contract, which is where it came from in the case of Safe Build.
Okay, so it'd be similar mechanics then, an aggregate value by a parcel ID.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And I would add one other small way that our pricing was different than at least what your current Safe Build arrangement with Safe Build is. I'm not sure exactly if they've proposed the same or not. Safe Build charges you a retainer, I guess you could call it, to operate the rental program, which is money the city is essentially on the hook for regardless of the performance of the rental program. We would roll all of that into the building department. So there would be, I think it's $25,000 a month is the minimum amount that, or their retainer for doing that. We would be completely based on the performance of the rental program.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that additional insight. Commissioner Kilgo.
Yes, I have a question for, since he was up there.
Oh, yes.
I did have a question.
Sorry, sir. If you'd kindly return to the podium.
Again, I think as the commission is finding out tonight that there's some ebbs and flows and looking at a bunch of proposals, that's why they had a group do it.
Sure.
If you all agreed to what the error was, which is what you said that you all would do you think that that would affect performance, as in how many people you all staff for the city of Muskegon? Again, we are doing a lot of projects all over the city, and I don't want to see developers, builders suffer or have to wait, because in real estate, time is money, or in the construction of things. Do you think if you had to do that you would suffer in how many people you employ to do different inspections and different things?
Yeah, I don't believe so. In our proposal, we lay out some specific metrics that we will be meeting for the contract, for plan review turnaround times, the time frame to get an inspection. So we would staff as needed to meet those benchmarks and make sure that developers and people looking to invest money in the city are able to get the level of service that they expect from a premier city like Muskegon with a great building department. So.
Thank you. Any follow-up, Commissioner Kilgo? All right. Thank you, sir. Unless any other questions for the gentleman at this moment? No? All right, thank you.
Feel free to call me back. That's why I'm here.
All right. So currently our contract is expiring December 31st with Safe Built, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we need to, right now we're deciding who to accept and task staff with bringing forward a formal contract of service, which presumably would be at our December 9th general session. So we don't have, that's our last meeting of the year. So we don't have a lot of flexibility unless we do a special meeting in December for the sole purpose of considering a contract. So we need to give guidance this evening, or alternatively, could tack it onto our LPC meeting.
Could, yeah.
If the commission wants more time to digest and review this and ask questions in light of new information, we could add this as a discussion item at our Legislative Policy Committee meeting, which is next Monday, December 1st, and we can give direction to staff at that time for them. That gives them just a week's time, essentially, and technically it's supposed to be in the agenda packet, submitted for agenda review that next day, but the formal contract. So it'd be really tight timeline. They'd have to put essentially a space holder in the agenda saying, hey, this is going to be a recommendation for this contract with the document, the actual contract forthcoming that would need to be added to the agenda, hopefully by the end of that week, so that we have it at least in the packet before the weekend, whichever one way we go. So that's a potential. If the commission is not prepared to give direction tonight, then we need to have this on the LPC meeting Monday to give direction then, in order for this contract to come to a December 9th meeting, unless we wish to have a special meeting in December. And I don't think commissioners are inclined to have a special meeting later in the month of December purely to address this.
Sir, if I may?
Yes, please.
You entrust us as, department heads to get together to do these type of projects and to bring you our best recommendations and bringing all four of us together to do this and putting this all together. I believe wholeheartedly, still, even with that one caveat of that pricing difference, we were strongly recommending Safebolt. Number two, the pricing is 10% of this. I wouldn't recommend that we just hang our hat on that. And I believe respectfully, but kind of would, if we do a multi-year contract, we'd be looking at that second year for a difference back to where they had put their adjustment in. So we'd be looking at a 1 year price competitiveness. One thing I'm also very cautious of is 1 to 2 months with onboarding. Do we have the time as a city to have that gap, possibly, with all due respect, I don't want to speak for their performance, to have that type of gap in our service level with our large builds, with our small builds, and with our small remodels, if there is some type of changeover.
Mm-hmm. So when you say pricing is 10%, that's just, you're talking about 10% of your scoring matrix.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, because it is potentially a significant revenue differential between, particularly, and I was going to bring this up with regard to the Safebuild proposal because they talk about an aggregate on a per site, and it was mentioned Shaw Walker. Shaw Walker is based on 2 parcel sites, and so when you break it up, Shaw Walker is going to be over $200 million altogether. But when you break it up in 2 different parcels, right, it's very likely going to get under that threshold before we even see a bonus, so to speak, revenue share or preferential revenue sharing with the city. When you look at Windward Point, which is going to be another multi-$100 million project, it's going to be broken up to parcels. So it's not as beneficial, that revenue share when it's broken up on a per parcel site that way. At that threshold of 100 million to 200 million, 200 to 300 million, like what we're seeing from McKenna is going to come into play, and we are going to see a significantly better revenue sharing there. All that said, I'm thinking with the fiscal component, I understand you're saying it's 10% of your total scoring, and that's what you're basing it on. Fiscal certainly weighs, and if they are a qualified company and they can do these services and we can have a much better fiscal dynamic, then I would be remiss to not entertain that. And I fully appreciate and respect your professional opinion and recommendation on this. You work very closely with Safebuild, and that bears a lot of weight, in our decision making. That experience and your recommendation. With regard to the service provided by Safebuild, one of the additional questions I had is with regard to their customer service responsiveness, and was a mechanism established whereby every user of their services has an opportunity to give feedback directly. And we understand sometimes it's regulatory versus an enforcement issue, but has there been that mechanism that's been standardized to solicit feedback and intake that feedback and respond accordingly?
Very, very good question. And yes, that did occur. It occurred over the last year. It occurred with communication directly with myself and the city manager. On the quarterly reports, they'll document the amount of complaints that they get directly within their system about responsiveness, how they're doing with their customer service. And so they would let us know what type of complaints they are and their response to those. Also, if we had complaints that funneled up either through my division, coming to us from one of the commissioners or through the city manager's office, they would address those head on, and there has been a lot of change that has taken place over the last year with those situations.
Okay. I know that was something that the commission and others wanted to see and help to inform improvement. I'm glad that has happened. And so, had that not happened, would you be in a different situation in terms of your recommendation? Would you have greater pause, or that's help gives you reassurance that the company is being responsive and addressing the needs of our community?
If I can take us back to last November when we were talking about having a year extension, one of the biggest things that was talked about was their customer service. Correctly, right? We'll give them a year extension. Let's see how they work on their customer service, how they measure out over the next year. And I think they've hit everything that we have asked them of the city and more. And that's one of the reasons why we as a team, when we were looking at this, put the experience, the customer service as the top, because that's what the commission and that's what our citizens were asking of us, right? Every single time. I've had no communication about the price competitiveness of it, or what are we making or lack thereof. I don't think we're losing any money at all with what we have right now as far as intake of money in our general fund from our building department, so. Notwithstanding, I totally understand what that could be as an advantage, so.
Yeah, but you did mention that you anticipated it'd be for just the initial year, and then there'd be an adjustment in the subsequent year that would probably revert back to what the initial or original intent was. Is that?
I didn't speak with them about a multi-year, but I would rather defer to them on those type of questions.
Okay, because I mean, we're not going to negotiate from the dais here, but in my mind, when you receive a proposal, I would expect, there'd be some kind of perhaps adjustment or inflator, but it wouldn't be significant change from year over year. And in fact, in terms of the cost share, it is static for Safe Built. In the previous contracts, we haven't seen an adjustment year over year. It's been a static cost share. So in that regard, if they're trying to mimic the contract, I would anticipate that it would be static as well for the life of the contract, whether that be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Did you have something to chime in, Mr. Manager? I feel like you kind of want to say something. I don't.
I've worked with both these companies. They both, in another community I've been in, I've worked with McKenna on a couple different things. They're both really good companies. I don't think that there's, that's not what's at play. What I'm looking at is, the weighting of it and, the price competitiveness. Even if they were at 100, that would get their average up to 840, still more weighted to Safe Built. And so just kind of looking at it that way, the timing of how this is coming up is also playing in my head. And as Chief Kozel pointed out, one of the concerns that I would have with a change right now, not that this isn't here weighted, but with the projects that are going on, and how does that go? How does that impact
seamless
things?
transition?
Yeah, and I'm sure that McKenna could be up to it. But as the chief also just pointed out, that year extension was to give Safe Built an opportunity to make some corrections. And I've seen a reduction in the amount of complaints that I've gotten as the manager about Safe Built. Sure, there's still concerns, and we usually are able to get those figured out. But as was also talked about, it's an enforcement mechanism. And the 3 communities I've worked in, the building department was consistently the most complained about department because you're doing enforcement. And nobody likes enforcement. And now there's the way that you do it. And I think that's started, we've seen some change there with Safe Built over the past year and how they're communicating with us and being proactive and working through those challenges as they come up. So I think it's kind of looking back, as the chief was saying, what was, for the past year, how did that, work? So, but we serve at the pleasure of the commission and how you want to look at it. So.
Yeah, and we did that as an opportunity to stall off putting out to bid a year ago, instead of giving them another opportunity to make corrections as we then put it out to bid now. To help inform our
If I
decision
may,
making.
one more point, and I apologize, I know there's a lot on the plate today and a lot of public comment about the next thing that will be talked about here. We had a lot of talk over the last year and a half about a rental program. And we really discussed it, and we established, I think, a very fine rental program. With one of the reasons why, with the depth of proposed services, why McKenna was just a little bit lower, is that there was no depth of how they would handle a rental program within our city, or experience in that. There was indication that they would run the rental program, but there wasn't anything in depth about how that would be handled. And I don't know, they may have experience in those areas about handling a specific rental program like we have here, which, as you all know, it's very robust, and we're probably over numbers in some certain areas, but that was one of those reasons why that was also a reduction.
Okay. You have a question, Commissioner Koshin?
I do, yes. To speak to that same point, Chief Kozel, would that fall under the past performance and references section, or was that the depth of proposed services and resources?
Depth of proposed services.
Okay. Can you explain a little bit about why the lower score for the past performance and references?
The only known that I have for the city of Muskegon is what we have with the builds that we have talked about. The depth of McKenna's services within the city of county area is Muskegon Township. So I don't have much known, other than what they've listed throughout Michigan and other communities, which Safebuilt has the same in those. But within our area, Safebuilt has been the best as far as performance in those areas.
Okay. And when you say our area, you mean the city of Muskegon, correct? Okay, but just help me work through this real quick. Would McKenna have the opportunity to do that for the city of Muskegon if they're not our building inspector?
I would suggest yes.
Okay.
One other caveat with that, with the references, we actually requested for 3 references in each proposal. We got a list of references with both of these companies, but we actually had letters of reference for Safebuilt. We didn't get a letter of reference on, even though, to me, when you're filling that request for that RFQ and you're asked for those references, you should be getting, letters from an area. So we didn't get any. Yes, we had a list of different cities that they had that could be references. So did Safebuilt. And that's another reason why that was a little bit lower, since we didn't have that fulfilled as far as the RFQ.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner Koshin. Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Thank you. I may have missed this, but have we talked about the length of a proposed contract?
I did not at this
That is
point, because
still-
that would be, I wanted to wait till it's been awarded to whatever company. In my mind, I was gonna come back to the city commission with a 3 to 5 year.
I feel like that is an important consideration in this. And I feel like we might get closer to an answer if we have an idea of what we're signing on for time-wise. If there are, I understand that Safebuilt has been in the job for some years, and I know that a significant portion of that time was very rocky. And we have had some good improvement over the last year. And I'm grateful for that and for the community as well. But I would like, I understand that the idea that a contract negotiation was going to come up helps people behave better. So I would like to see something that would help to enforce that, or to ensure that we are still getting good customer service for our community in a longer term way, before I would be really comfortable with doing a long contract with them because the grievances were significant and relevant to this conversation. It wasn't just one or two people having a hard time. It was some pretty systemic issues.
Very valid point. One of the things that we have discussed internally, as far as within our team and myself in conversation with the city manager, is to have some type of metrics. I think with any company that would take this from January 1 forward, that those metrics need to be hit as far as customer service and what we're doing to maintain that customer service or grow. And we talked about that to install that within that contract so that we do have that and we can report out to the city commission. Yes, right now we're getting reports out to myself and the city manager about these performance levels, but I hear you well that we need to also make sure the commission's well involved.
You know, as somebody who's been a manager for a long time, evaluation biases is real. And as you get close to doing a performance evaluation, it can be very difficult to remember what the situation was 6, 8, 10, 12 months ago. And having a system in place to keep track year over year of like, oh, right, things are really good right now, but we really struggled for 2 years. And that has to be weighted in. You know, so I would like to see some metrics that we are keeping solid data, whatever direction we go. Because it is important that people get treated in a respectful manner always.
Thank you, Commissioner, or Vice Mayor Sank there. I note that reading in the McKenna proposal on client satisfaction, that client satisfaction is measured regularly as a quality control measure, and the level of performance is graded, and McKenna adjusts as necessary. And before I go on to Commissioner Kilgo, Mr. Manager, do you have something to add?
Yeah, and this was something that the chief and I had discussed, although we didn't settle on an actual number as far as years of contract, but doing whether it's a 2 or 3 year contract and then going out to bid 6 months prior to the expiration so that if there was a change, we would know that. But also putting into place the metrics as the chief was just talking about, looking at things. I think, one of the biggest concerns that we heard, and it's improved, I haven't heard this recently, is communication from inspector to inspector. So when one inspector would go out and see something and note it, and then the next inspector would come out a couple weeks later and see something different and make a different recommendation, and that's where some of the frustration was born out of. We've had those discussions with their management company about how we can eliminate that frustration for people to ensure that there's consistency, and looking to make sure that if we're requiring someone to go back and do something, that it's for a health and safety reason and not because I said so. And we've been having those discussions with them so that they can help to understand that, how that impacts the folks that they're inspecting for. Yeah, sorry, that's what I was going to say.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
I think there was something else and it left my brain.
Oh, that happens all the time to me. So give it a moment, put it on the back burner, and we'll come back to you. Commissioner Kilgo.
Thank you. Just the last, I know that I opened this can of worms, so to tie it all up, I know this isn't necessarily the place to nitpick, right? But for instance, with Safe Build in the rental program, I am glad that they do that. Some things that I've heard directly from small business owners and landlords in Muskegon, sometimes little things are nitpicked, like a little chip in a countertop. Well, now that landlord has to replace the whole countertop, kick the tenant out, redo the countertop. Well, now since they redid the countertop, they have to redo the cabinets, and now they put a new tenant in there and they had to raise the rent $500-600. So something to think about for the rental side. The other thing Mr. Manager touched on, I do think that if we did a 2 or 3 or 5 year contract, whatever number that we come down to with whoever we choose, starting the bid process a lot earlier, because we do welcome back McKenna if they didn't win, or Safe Build if they didn't win, or the county of Muskegon if they don't win, to give them time. And this is kind of a good exercise. We've had the same building department for 13 years. And we're renewing a contract, we're choosing someone new, and it won't be another 13 years before we kind of are able to go back and look at this and see, okay, what worked well, what didn't work well. In our next RFQ we put out there, maybe we take from tonight and some of the things that we heard to get even more information from companies that come in and present to us on what they can and can't do. So, again, thank you for your help on this.
Thank you, Commissioner Kigo. Any additional questions or comments, Commissioner Jimmer or Commissioner Gorman?
You know, with some of the complaints, like I said, I've been on the commission for a while. That was when we decided to contract with Safe Built. I think that was a rocky time. I don't know if they were just getting acclimated with working with the city, but there were a lot of complaints. I could think of 3 off the top of my head. One was with a Caucasian male. It said he would never do business, in Muskegon again due to the coding and hassles he's had from Safe Built. One was a black contractor that, suggested that we bring in and meet with our EEOC director at the time to clear some things and air some things out. And then, last one, a Hispanic male who stood here and was in compliance with everything. And the hassles that this guy went through, almost losing his house, and it just took some empathy. And I think that's really what made me have a pause with Safe Built. Now, I'm not saying that they have not done tremendous work. You could see from the projects and the projects that they've overseen. But Chief Colto, I heard you mention customer service. That's an automatic given when you contracting and working with people. There's no excuses whatsoever. I think the customer, as I was taught, even in business school, is the number one priority. And it's unacceptable. I haven't heard anything lately, and that's good. Sometimes you can work things out, but for the most part of it, whoever contracts with the city of Muskegon has to represent their company with integrity and treat our customers and our citizens with the utmost respect. Because these are taxpayers, they're invested in the community and those who move here that want to do business. So, that's all I have to say. It's a no-brainer. So, whoever we decide to approve for this contract, I would hope that they will act in good faith.
Thank you, Commissioner German. Commissioner Gorman, any final thoughts or questions to ask? No. Okay, thank you. I just want to note, because we were talking about quality control a moment ago, and I referenced the McKenna proposal. There is a page dedicated to quality control and assurance in the Safe Build proposal. I'm not going to read that whole page, but I wanted to point that out. I'll just read the introductory paragraph for that. And Safe Build's success relies on delivering high-quality, detail-oriented services. Our quality control approach is proactive, ensuring oversight throughout the project, not just in the final review, guided by total quality management principles. Each project has a customized QC plan, quality control plan detailing responsibilities, procedures, and standards. This ensures independent checks, data verification, compliance, and coordination of project documents. I will say the overall proposal from Safe Built was much more detailed and comprehensive, which is appreciated. And I appreciate our staff's professional opinion on this and who their recommendation is to work with. And that's definitely carries a lot of weight. This is the people they're going to be working day in and day out with regard to ensuring the safety and compliance of so many facets of what happens in our community. I'm, coming into this night, I was fully expecting to concur with the staff recommendation. The physical dynamic is giving me some pause to wanting to further reflect, and I can't fully reflect on that right now because I need to crunch numbers or get some numbers to understand what the fiscal projections would, how they would differ. Fiscal implications would differ, because that is a primary duty of our job as commissioners in our oversight role and in approving any contract and any work that we're doing, is that we are being judicious with limited resources and that we're using them to maximum effect, and we whenever reasonably possible get maximum revenue as well, because we have a whole host of needs and priorities in this community that we need to be investing in, and we don't have enough resources to invest in them. And so if there's an opportunity for that fiscal dynamic to change, even if it's on a 3-year basis or 5-year basis, going to this, I was thinking that we do a 3-year contract. Potentially, it was more in line with Commissioner Gilgo and talks about having a shorter contract versus a longer contract. But whatever that time basis is, that could be considerable, but I don't know because I haven't had an opportunity. I just got that page with the breakout here at the dais, and I have an opportunity to really dig in and do the revenue comparison. But it is giving me pause to say clearly and with confidence, yes, I concur with staff's recommendation on Safe Built. But that certainly was my inclination going into this meeting tonight. If the commission feels comfortable moving forward with concurring with it, I'm not going to object. This is where I stand. I would likely abstain on this for lack of that specific information. While still being prepared to vote on whatever contract comes forward, if the commission does recommend moving this forward. Otherwise, I would be comfortable weighing in personally at our LPC meeting on Monday, because that will give me time to dig into the numbers more.
Yeah.
But I understand that also puts staff in a bind to get a contract drafted to bring forward to the City Commission at our December 9th meeting. And then I also understand the concerns about the transition, that this contract ends at the end of December. Will there be a seamless transition? We have some major projects underway. What are the implications for the quality of service to our end users, disruption to our organization here, disruption to, this shouldn't be necessarily a factor so much, but it certainly, we're all human too, and so we can't be completely ignorant about necessarily impacts. Not being quick to or cavalier in our changes in terms of impacts on our employees and our contractors, because there are people that live in our community who work for Safe Built, and it's not necessarily going to be a overriding factor, but there's a human element to it as well. Which, final question, I was wondering, Safe Built, could you tell me how many employees you have in the state of Michigan? Do you know that off, ballpark?
So it's 82, but there's a mix of, there's some part-time in that count, so full-time, I think it's less than that.
Okay.
But I can get you that number.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner, we do have a motion on the table, which is to move forward with the recommendation for Safe Built. Are you all prepared to vote on this? Vice Mayor St. Clair.
I am not a math person, and I can't even conceptualize what kind of dollars we're looking at with this revenue split. But I can't help but feel that's important to have that information in making this kind of decision, because I know we are fully aware that we have some big projects coming up, but we have some big projects coming up, and fiscal responsibility is one of the highest standards that we have to meet, and I don't feel like I understand what this means, and I'm really uncomfortable with moving forward without knowing. Like, I understand that this is only 10% of the raw score, but I can't see these numbers and think that it's insignificant until somebody can show me that it's insignificant, and I don't think that can happen tonight. So I have to say that I'm feeling aligned with the mayor on this. I don't feel like I have all of the information to make an informed decision tonight. I thought I did, but this back page is I think it's important. And, I don't think we can discount that.
So, one bit of information, just because we need more information, is, for the current phase of Shaw, they've already gotten all of their permits. And, there will be future phases of Shaw, but it's not like the whole project is sitting there waiting for the permits to be pulled. So that, those fees have already been collected, just to keep that in mind. So, as far as like the two parcels, it's the parcel to the east.
And to that point, I apologize. When this came up about the Shaw and this new fee schedule, breakdown, I reached out to them. I wanted to get clarification on that because I knew it was several parcels. I think it's like 6 or 7 parcels. How was that going to factor into that? They told me, and they would stand behind it, that there would be all one construction project, not as it stays in there on the parcel, but that they'll honor that.
Okay, thank you. Which brings to mind something I was going to suggest earlier before we even got into the sidetrack with McKenna and their cost breakout or revenue sharing, is that perhaps we have language that speaks to by PUD as well. If there's a PUD in place, it's by PUD versus by parcel. Because then that would be an aggregate of if there's 10 parcels or 100 parcels or however many within a planned unit development, that it is based on the PUD itself. So that's a thought to share and suggest in terms of that calculus. Commissioner Kilgo.
I'm not in the business of firing anybody right before Christmas.
No.
I think that we learned a lot tonight. And again, if we come back and look at some new proposals in a couple of years, great. I'm ready to move forward, though, just so you have where I'm sitting at.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgo.
Yes, sir.
Unfortunately, given the timing, anytime we change, it's going to be right before Christmas.
Yeah, but we'll know beforehand.
Well, I'm just saying, unfortunately with the timing,
True.
in any scenario, whether it's now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, it will happen in December right before Christmas. That we'll know. I mean, it will become effective just after. But neither one's an enviable position for any, or good situation for anyone. All right, we do have a motion on the table. Unless there's any additional motions, then we're going to roll call.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin,
Dang it. No.
Vice Mayor St. Clair,
I'm going to abstain.
Mayor Johnson,
Abstain for lack of information with regard to calculations on revenue sharing, forecasts, and the like.
Commissioner Kilgo,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
I'm going to vote yes on the basis that this vote was awarded to them and recommended. So, yep.
I believe that's.
Well, motion does not carry.
does not carry.
Correct.
The question is, where do we go from here?
Yes.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Director Grant, can you join Director Kozel? Got a question for you. How quickly do we think between the three of us on Monday we can crunch these numbers?
Off Monday, but I can.
Or we can
I can come
volunteer.
in. I can
No,
change that.
no,
I'll be in town, so I can.
Okay.
I can come in Monday if you need me to. Because we'll have to look at crunch some numbers on Monday, based on you want to look at like the past sales or past.
Well, I think from the abstentions of the mayor and the vice mayor, I believe that their abstentions were based on the having a better understanding of how the revenue sharing numbers with McKenna would work, so they can make a more informed decision based on that. So that I think that's the only way that we can get a vote to understand where they would stand.
Yeah, we could get something together Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, we have some revenue sharing comparisons that are more practical versus theoretical or conceptual, tied to specific numbers. And even if it's a review of the past year or projection coming, I think probably the easiest way to do a review of the past year.
Past year and
To
kind of
compare
base
the
it.
two with the two schedules, just to give some reference point and comparison point. Go to Commissioner Kilgo, and then I know you don't have anything. Commissioner Kilgo.
Yes, point of information. Can I make a motion to allow both parties to submit numbers? Because tonight we asked a question of McKenna from the dais and they said, oh yeah, we'll do that. To just give both parties the opportunity to present what this payment for services is going to be?
To clarify, McKenna was saying they're going to honor what's in the proposal. So they did not present new information. They just confirmed that they would honor what's in their proposal. We have the numbers and the breakout from the proposal from Safe Build. So we don't need any new numbers or new information submitted by either parties. What we need to do is an internal fiscal analysis and understanding what the real world implications are between those two cost revenue sharings. And that's what Mr. Manager and Director Grant's talking about being able to provide to us Monday.
Right, but now that we've voted on it, I was just wondering, because I'm guessing it's coming down to these two based on the scoring summary. So that if we did December 9th go to a vote on a contract, we would know what we're dealing with. But I understand both parties have submitted numbers. I'm concerned that by honoring this, there may be something that suffers somewhere else or down the line. And I would rather just have the parties say, here's what we can do.
And I think that's a legitimate question or concern. And I think once we have a better understanding of the cost share and the exact dollars that they'd be retaining versus we'd be getting out of the scenario, we'd have a better insights in terms of their capabilities and whether we do think there's going to be serious concerns or questions about their abilities to perform as expected with that revenue share. And that would help inform our decision making.
Thank you.
So then the expectations will have this information for our LTC meeting Monday night. Okay.
We'll figure something out.
I mean, in terms of,
yeah.
let's say I'm trying to understand the process. Let's say that tonight we did give indication that we were going to go with one or the other. Let's say Safeville, because that was your recommended. So you were, because Thanksgiving and Friday, holidays, so there's not much difference in time for business hours wise between a decision being made today versus Monday night. Essentially, it's 2 business days, Wednesday and Monday. So you'd be gaining 2 business days if we made a decision now in terms of hammering out a contract to bring forward versus Monday night.
Yeah,
I have a contract waiting in the
Well,
wings.
I mean, the contract, we have.
We already have it,
we've already got
We've
one.
approved one in the
Yeah,
past,
and so
so
we
just be
weren't
updating
anticipating that there would be that much work to do to get that done.
Gotcha.
And so so that does,
That's
put
another
us in a
factor.
bind.
Yeah.
And so,
Okay.
and I apologize. This is on me. I should have been a little more insightful into this conversation going this way. We'll get it figured out on Monday. I'll get it figured out on Monday. So.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Manager. All right. Item H, amendment to Federal Purchase. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Amendment to Federal Purchase Agreement. Commissioner Kilgo.
Motion to approve the addendum as presented and to authorize the city manager to sign.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner Kilgo, supported by Commissioner Cochin. Good evening, sir. Kindly introduce yourself and please report out.
Good evening. My name is Jake Ekholm. I am the Director of Development Services for the City of Muskegon. I apologize, my voice is a little iffy today. I was at a very exciting football game on Sunday in the Metro Detroit area. So this is something that we advocate to complete in partnership with Samaritas, who, as everyone knows, is under contract and been awarded low-income housing tax credits for an affordable workforce housing development at Frebel School, the former Frebel Elementary School. The reason for this proposed change is because of a change at the state level for future submissions and applications for low-income housing tax credit projects. In their initial request to purchase the site, they mentioned their potential interest in a future second phase, which would be new construction in the schoolyard. MISTA, the Michigan Statewide Housing Development Authority, who oversees the 9% LIHTC program in the state of Michigan, has added to their scoring system additional points if an RFP is conducted by the municipality wherein the application is being proposed. So if we were to sell the entirety of the space to them right now, they would automatically lose out on those points for future phases and applications because there was no RFP to consider the site. So this would involve splitting the lot, retaining the vacant property, and then continuing forward with the closing of the building, or closing on the site with the building. And we are underway on design and pre-development for the construction. We meet every other week with the developer and the state land bank regarding their progress.
Thank you. Commissioner Kilgo.
Thank you. Speaking of the developer, I have concerns with the safety of the building and the building being secured. So being out in the community every day, I was on one of the cross streets there, Charles Street. There's a new construction house there. And my car was parked facing Frebel, and two upstanding young gentlemen from our community came out of the building, kind of just strolling along. I do not want a young person or an unhoused person or any person to get hurt in that building. Does the developer and or the city have plans to make sure that this building is secure until they can start redevelopment on it?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. That's actually been a continuous challenge for mostly us. And so if you do see that, please do call 911. We have made to date, I don't know if Tim's still here, but I think we've made to date at least 2 arrests in the last 6 months, one of which was caught in the act with, scrapping materials in their vehicle. And some folks have gotten in previous times that we think were unhoused folks seeking shelter. More often, we've had what we would describe as like determined breaking and entering. So our maintenance team has put up 3/4 inch OSB with 3 1/4 inch lag screws. People are doing a lot of work to get it off. We're noticing some new areas of perceived scrapping where we found some new ladders in some new places. We have welded doors shut and still have people gaining entry. You may have noticed we put chain link fence with 2x4s directly bolted into the brickwork. And for whatever reason, this building has had some determined entries. And so once we get started with the roof repairs with the state land bank blight elimination grant, there will be a chain link fence over the entire perimeter of the property, as well as cameras watching the building due to equipment being stored in there and things like that.
Okay, thank you. And with winter coming, I know that they're not going to be able, well, hopefully they can continue to get some work done, but hopefully they're able to close on it soon and start developing it so it can be housing. Because I really love the idea, this LIHTC project in the old school there. My last question is about the property that we're not, with the addendum to the purchase agreement, that we're not selling. Is it like all of that open space, kind of that L-shaped around the building, the city will retain?
With the exception of any of the parking lots. So if you're looking at the school from Jackson, it's everything left of the school building and then tucking behind it, as you mentioned. So, yeah, and our code coordinator has been working with the surveyor on the job to finalize the legal descriptions for the closing. So, yeah, it'll be effectively any vacant land that's not parking or building will be held over by the city to utilize hopefully for a future phase.
Okay. And then in the future, the city would RFP that land, or we would put it into our regular, how we sell land now to developers?
So that would not be subject to our vacant lot infill program because those are vacant, like residential lots. This one we would advocate holding for a future multifamily investment, just because of its available density. And we would issue a request for proposals on that site, for presumably this next LIHTC round, or a future LIHTC round.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgo. Commissioner Cochin.
I don't have any other questions. I fully support this project and echo Commissioner Kilgo's concerns about making sure that people are staying safe. On a side tangent, I also want to see people, seeking shelter in safe spaces. Because I think that as our economy slows, we will see more and more people losing their houses and more people on the street looking for safe places. And I would love to see a robust discussion in the future about how we're going to tackle that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cochin. Commissioners, any other questions or comments? Commissioner German.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Director Eckham, for the report. This is a building that's been vacant for quite some time. It's in my ward. Before I even got on the commission, one of the visions was to get this building and do something with it and provide housing. Now we're at that point. But we have a lot of homeless people, and people are going to squat regardless of what we do. People have to survive. They got to eat, you got to have a place to stay, and you got to have clothing. So I think, the more housing we provide that's affordable, and what I mean by affordable, I'm talking about a price where someone making $20,000 could, possibly live in a place like this, and this is where we're at right now. That's the vision. And but I want to see people safe in that community. I get calls all the time. I walk that area all the time, and it's just very disturbing to see that a city that we live in, and you see people sleeping outside or trying to break in just to have a place to stay. Even like John Wesley Church, I've had that problem right down the street, up on the corner of Wood and Amity. I boarded it up a couple times. But if people have a need to try to survive, that's what they're going to do. So I think the city, we're faced with this problem, and I think we have to make real good decisions to make it affordable, to give people opportunities that can't really help themselves. For the most part of it. And I just wanted to speak on this because this is something dear to me, and to see it now start to come into fruition is definitely going to be a benefit to the community over there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Hey, Commissioner German. All right, before we go to vote, I just want to say thank you, Dr. Eckham, for all your work on this project and persevering and persisting, and also appreciation to Samaritas for their persistence and keeping this project moving forward. Of course, you have to make adjustments along the way sometimes, and I really appreciate that this project is moving forward and it's going to be done. It's so incredibly important for not only Jackson Hill, but our wider community. So thank you.
It's been a great team effort. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Cochin?
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next item and final item from the consent agenda, School Resource Officer Contract. Commissioner German.
Yes, thanks again, Mayor. I move to approve annual School Resource Officer SRO contract with Muskegon High and Muskegon Middle School.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner German, supported by Commissioner Kilgo. Good evening, sir. Welcome back.
Hi, Director Tim Kozel, Public Safety. Before you is our contracts with the school for our middle school and our high school resource officers. On an annual basis, we have to renew these and get those signed off by the mayor, and that's why they're in front of you. One of those is with Muskegon High School, that is a portion of the overall money that pays for that officer, and that's been that way since inception. The actual one for the Muskegon Middle School, that's a higher portion, that's through a grant that they got from the state, and that's how it's funneled back down to us. And we currently have them in place and have had them in place since the beginning of the school year. It just takes the school sometimes to get things to us, so.
Thank you, Chief Kozel. Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Chief Kozel, for addressing that, because that was my first question. Having officers in the school, and you probably heard this. Well, first of all, I'm going to ask you, how effective is it having that officer in these schools? We have a lot of fights, or has it decreased, or has the behavior, safety? I do know they have metal detectors and things like that in the school now. So I'm just kind of curious, from your observation and what you've seen from your profession, how would you rate the school safety on a scale 1 to 10?
Our school safety is very, very high.
Okay.
With our cooperative meetings
Please make
that
sure
we've
you're
had.
get in the microphone. Sorry.
Apologies. About 9 or 10. And the reason for that is because of our meetings that we've had with the school and what we've tried to get from where we were to where we are today. We're there to protect the kids. We're there to handle the criminal complaints. We're not there as their security force, I guess you would say. And I think that finally has come to that. So now we're not handling the incorrigible situations. We're there to make certain that the school property is safe. So I think over the last year, we've done very well. We've been able to prohibit things from coming to school. Right at the end of the last school year, we were able to prohibit a gun from coming into school just by the intuitive nature of our school resource officers. So we do very well with the programs. I see that our calls for service at the schools, especially the middle school, has gone way down since we've implemented a school resource officer at the middle school. So I'm very happy, and I know the school is too, with going in this direction. And we've actually been reached out to the ISD asking if they could also get some assistance there.
Oh, great.
And I've also had talks with the college, but of course, staffing level has to be there to be able to accommodate those.
Right. That Muskegon Community College?
Correct.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm employed there, and I see the officers come in, they do a great job, and, just proud to be a commissioner with officers that do as well as the officers do under your leadership. So I appreciate that. That's greatly appreciated. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner German. Commissioner Kogo, anything to ask Brad?
Yes, thank you. First of all, shout out to Muskegon Public Schools. In talks with the superintendent, some of their advancement rates over the last couple of years have gone from when the percentage of students that qualify as a 9th grader to a 10th grader were down under the 50% mark. And now they're up over 89% of us moving our kids along like they're supposed to be. In their new curriculum, the for Next Generation Learning has been, I hear really great things about it. In fact, because they're looking to work with more businesses and trades around the county, I've gone into the high school and spoke to some of the kids, and they've enjoyed it just as much as I have. But I've also heard from teachers and parents about our officers, and they're vital. They're deterrents. They're good deterrents. Kids see the officer, and they're less likely to cross that line, whether it's horseplay or further escalated stuff. So I'm very glad that we have officers in both schools, because their presence helps keep the kids focused on what they're supposed to be focused on. I understand what you said as far as they're not there to do what the teachers and the administrators of the school are there for, but they are great deterrents and having their eyes on things. And some of the horrific things that we've seen around this country, I also think it's good for us to have officers in the school. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kogo. Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Thank you. I spend a fair bit of time at Muskegon High School and Muskegon Middle School for a variety of reasons. And in my day job, I have staff that are co-located in the middle school and high school. And I really have been able to observe how the school safety officers interact with the kids, and it's a really great thing to see. They are continually building relationships and reaching out in ways that you don't often see in heavily minority communities with enforcement presence. You just don't. And they are deliberate and mindful, and I've seen quite a few different school safety officers over the years, and it is a consistent through line that they are respectful and warm and caring to the kids and the staff, and that goes a long way to increase safety. And I know that those relationships are fostered deliberately. Those things don't happen by accident, and I appreciate the effort that has gone into building that program and sustaining it, both by the school district and by the public safety department. So this is something that I really support, and I was really happy to see us go into the middle school, and I would like to see it expand. I think that there's a lot of value that comes from it.
Thank you, Vice Mayor St. Clair. Anything else to ask or add, commissioners? All right, thank you.
Real quick, one thing that
yes.
I wanted to comment. I don't have to force our officers to do this. We have volunteers. We have men and women that have stood up that want to do this. Sometimes during the year it can get a little bit long, but they want to be there. They want to be there with the kids, and they do a wonderful job, as you indicated. Watching them in the schools and seeing how they're interacting with the kids, it's a wonderful thing. Hopefully we can change some paths, right, and I think that's beneficial.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that's very evidenced in how they interact and engage with the students and the district itself. That it's not a chore. It is something, like you said, they volunteer. They gleefully want to do that work and understand the impact and the meaningfulness of it. So I appreciate our officers and what they're doing there, and I appreciate what your division, public safety, is doing to foster better relationships with the entirety of our community. And all the different ways that you approach that. It's important and impactful. And hopefully we can get some more folks within our community choosing to get into law enforcement and take advantage of that, the grants that we have available for new recruitment, where we can. So anyone out there in the community that's looking to potentially get a job in law enforcement, we have at least 2, if not 3 times a year, where we invite people to apply, and we will pay for you to go through the police academy. We'll pay you a stipend while you're in the police academy, and I think that stipend is $24 an hour. Pay you while you're going to 23 or 24.
It will just change to 24.
Okay, $24 an hour that we'll pay for you to go through the police academy, and then if you graduate the police academy, then there's a strong likelihood that you're going to have a job with the Muskegon Police Department once you get out. So if you have an interest in law enforcement, consider that. Keep an eye out for those recruitment windows, which I think we do spring, fall, and maybe one other time a year. But keep an eye out for those. And then finally, I just wanted to concur with Commissioner Kilgo and appreciate his acknowledgement of the improvements and investments that are happening at Muskegon Public Schools with the Ford Next Generation Leadership program and model. They're only the 4th in the state to adopt that curriculum model, and the first on the Lakeshore, and the Innovation Academies of Muskegon that they've launched at the high school is awesome. And I can't wait to see how that progresses and serves our community. And the district is growing, which is really exciting. We're seeing more students within our district choose Muskegon Public Schools versus seeking to choice out into another district. And we're even seeing students from other districts that have historically been magnets for school of choice, students coming from those municipalities into those districts coming into Muskegon Public Schools. So progress is being made, and I'm excited to see what's to come with our district. So thank you all, and roll call, please.
Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Yes.
Mayor Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo.
Big red. Yes.
Commissioner German.
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman. Yes. Commissioner Cochin.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. No unfinished business. Now moving on to new business. Item A, concurrence with the Housing Board of Appeals. Notice, and it just cuts off. But regardless, concurrence with the Housing Board of Appeals
Concurrence
On their
with the Housing-
findings.
Oh, yeah, on concurrence with the Housing Board of Appeals notice and order to demolish 1763, how do we say this?
McIlrath Street,
McIlrath.
1853
Yep.
Sanford, and 275 Dratz.
Yeah.
You need a motion?
Yes, please.
I move to concur with the Housing Board of Appeals decision to demolish properties at 1763 McIlrath, 1853 Sanford, and 275 Draft Street.
Support.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Kogo, supported by Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Director Tim Colson. Did I have a PowerPoint? I'm up and running, I just need you to.
Is it up?
Yep, switch.
Okay. There we go.
There we go. I do have some backup here, just in case I fall flat on any of this, but I'm gonna present, I have Blake and Steve here from Safe Built that handle these, so. The first one, I did all three at once, and I appreciate you doing the motion for all three at once. We do budget for demolitions within the Safe Built budget. This is the first one, it's on McIlrath. This seems like there's a couple issues there outstanding, it looks like. But let's just go over it. Fire inspection, there was a fire there, and the fire inspection letter was sent. There was a notice and order, a 10-day notice of hearing, and in June of this past year, the HBA declared the structure for demolition. Owner has had no contact with the city staff despite attempts by phone, email, and certified mail. So it's been declared by the HBA, which we have a meeting once a month on that, and we're here presenting on this particular house. Even though we have it all at once, probably be recommended that we get concurrence on that as we go. Or unless you'd like me to present all three at once, sir?
Let's ask the commissioner, is there anything that, or any one of these in particular that you want to focus in on? If not, then let's take it all at once.
Okay.
Keep it going.
Sounds great. All right, we have 1853 Sanford. I think you have pictures in front of you, so you've seen this packet, okay. All right, let's go through this. This one has been on the list for a bit. And as you can see, it started back in 2018. You've had some notices sent, you've had two determinations, three determinations actually, that have gone over time. And with that being said, sometimes when those happen, the people reach back out and then we wind up having to restart the process within HBA. So that's why you see that sometimes. Our staff in Safe Built, within the dangerous building area, try to give every opportunity for a homeowner to succeed, to be able to get their house up to par and not be unsafe. So it came to the point where back in May of this year, HBA declared it for demolition again. And again, we've been trying to reach the property owners since '23, however, no contact. Good? Rats. This one, we've had some discussions, and I remember this gentleman being in our HBA meetings and talking to him about it. There was a tree that fell in the front of that house, and then after that, a fire. So we worked with them. I know we gave them a lot of time after the initial tree issues, which happened back in '21. But since then, and since the fire in July of '22, we've had no contact. And this back in '23 was actually deemed for demolition. Our HBA actually deemed it for demolition, but it's now in front of you this year, so we can hopefully get that also taken care of. So I know that we send out letters to all three of the owners. I guess, have you had any notice of anything in here today? They have a right to come to this actual meeting and talk about this, to talk about their property, but we don't have any of the owners here today.
Thank you, Director Kozel. And it looks like each one of them has had a lengthy process of being noticed and hearings and opportunities for them to speak to the Housing Board of Appeals, confer with staff, and try to resolve these things. And ultimately, they're here before us today. We have three of them to consider. And since it's been a while, and maybe it's new for some of our newer commissioners with regard to these, when we concur with the Housing Board of Appeals for demolition, and correct me if I'm wrong here, legal counsel, the property owner has 21 days to seek superintendent control. If they do pursue that, the courts will assign them that superintendent control, and then they have additional time to resolve the matter before it ultimately gets, they'd have to put up some money and then commit to. Could you explain that,
Sure.
legal counsel, what that process would be?
What they would need to do within 21 days is file a lawsuit in the circuit court here in Muskegon. It's called a writ of superintending control. What we do then is immediately reach out to try and reach a consent judgment whereby definite dates are specified as to when permits have to be pulled, when the work needs to be done, deposit with the city, the estimated cost of demolition, and move forward. If we can't reach that agreement pretty quickly, we then ask the court to concur with the decision of the Housing Board of Appeals and to authorize the demolition.
Thank you, Counselor. All right. Commissioner Kogo, would you have anything to
Yes,
speak
thank
on?
you.
And you all are our representative on this housing.
I am,
appeals.
yes. I'm our representative on the HBA, and for the last 2 years, the monthly meetings, sometimes we see the property owners show up and state their case, whether it's they didn't have the proper resources, they fell on hard times, they didn't have proper insurance, different things like that. But then there are other ones who Safe Build representative or representatives from the city have tried numerous ways, including postings on the property to notify the owner, and they just don't contact our building department. And the reason why we have the HBA is because, kind of like the Frebel conversation that I was having, we don't want people to go in some of these buildings that are literally deemed unsafe because they are unsafe, and someone to go in one of these buildings and get hurt. Or sometimes there are external things where something could eventually give out and fall on a passerby or a young child or something. So I just want the commission and the public to know that all of these, actually these are the first ones coming in front of us in over 2 years. So I'm glad to see some, because some of these buildings are just flat out unsafe and they need to come down. Plus, with us and the great job that our development services team is doing in bringing builders and developers to Muskegon, and we're building homes. If we built 10 new homes in a neighborhood and that 11th home is one that's super dilapidated and looks like junk, it's not helping the neighborhood any. So we need to make sure that we're fighting blight on both ends by building nice new things and also taking care of things that aren't going to get taken care of. For instance, this drafts one. This one's in my ward, and I drove by this house for quite some time, and there's literally a tree growing into the house because it fell over on the front of the house, and it was just growing into the house and didn't look very well for the neighborhood. So, yeah, hopefully the people that do get notices, they contact Safe Build, because Safe Build will give them options on things that they can do. There's resources that are available through the city on some things. So it's not that we want to tear buildings down, but people who don't respond and they're also not doing anything with their property for the betterment of our community, some of these properties need to come down. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Kogo. Vice Mayor St. Clair, is the support of the motion? Do you have anything to ask Rad?
No.
All right, commissioners, anything else to ask Rad? Commissioner Cochin.
I do have a question, yes. Chief Kozel, what is the cost to the city for the demolition of the 3 buildings?
Very good question. We put it out for bid. We usually have about 2 or 3 companies that will bid these out, and they probably range for a house like this, probably within 13 to 15 grand, probably 13 to 15 grand, which is demolition, capping, and I think seating, right? Grading and seating. So that's usually around that price.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. And then one follow-up question. I saw on the first slide under staff correspondence, it talked about emails and letters and phone calls. Under the other ones, I didn't see the exact, like the same kind of wording. Did we try to contact all of these people by phone and by email and certified mail?
It's all the same process.
Okay.
Posting on the house, emails, phone calls. We try to do it to the last the person that actually own the house, or if we have some other information about someone that's living there,
Mhm.
we'll try to do the best we can to try to contact somebody.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cochin. Unless there's anything else?
Mr. Mayor, would you make sure that there's nobody here that
Oh,
owns
yes.
or
I'll
represents any
confirm.
of these properties?
Is there anyone in the audience that represents any of these three properties? Seeing none?
Thank you,
No one acknowledging or speaking up? Okay, then we have no representatives for these properties at this meeting. So let's call the question or move forward with voting. Roll call, please.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Now the next item is Fisherman's Landing, 3rd Street Wharf Lakefront Development. Before we get into this, we're going to take a 5-minute bio break and give our city manager time to get set up for his presentation and give everyone else an opportunity to stretch their legs and refresh and the like.
Do jumping jacks.
So do jumping jacks, get the blood flowing. Yes. So 5-minute, approximately 5-minute intermission.
warm, but I definitely don't feel good.
All right, good evening. Good folks, we are resuming our City of Muskegon City Commission General Session for this Tuesday, November 25th, 2025. And we are on item B under new business, Fisherman's Landing / 3rd Street Wharf Lakefront Development, a presentation from our city manager followed by discussion. The anticipation is this is a discussion only item this evening, and that it will be coming back to the City Commission at our December 9th general session. So, Mr. Manager, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I did do some jumping jacks, so I'm a little more awake. The presentation tonight, this is going to be a little bit more word intensive than the ones I've given in the past, because I think we all have a pretty good idea about the properties we're talking about, how the development would impact those properties in general. There will be a little bit of that at the end, but really what we're here to talk about is the aspects of the agreement that have been updated since the presentation we had earlier this fall. So in this presentation, we might defer to some questions from legal counsel a little bit more than we did in the last presentation as well, and possibly to the West Michigan Dock folks also. So I'm going to dive right into it. One of the big changes in this agreement is the addition of the campground lease, and this really looks at how West Michigan Dock would operate the campground once this agreement would go into place. This is a lease that would be for 50 years with an optional 40-year extension, and the details as far as when they may stop using the campground is within this agreement. The factors they would have to meet to do that ties the campground termination to the conversion property purchase, and I'll go into that a little bit later in a couple of slides. But it should be noted that once they've made their second rent payment, which is essentially the purchase payment, they've purchased the conversion property, and then that's when the things really start to turn as far as what they can start doing on that piece of property. If they do the whole purchase, they'll have in effect paid. Oh, sorry, I went forward on a slide there on my internal notes. I apologize. So we'll get into that in a minute. The rent structure, this is really a two payments tied directly to the appraised value. The way that we arrive at that appraised value is discussed in that agreement as well. The first payment is tied to the city acquired property, which is the 3rd Street property. So when we say city acquired property, that is 3rd Street. So whatever we pay for 3rd Street, we'll get reimbursed for that up front. And then the second payment is equal to the excess value, if any, on the property. And then that's essentially at that point they will have purchased or prepaid the lease on that property. We also talk about how the appraisal process would work, and if there's a dispute on that, how we come to a resolution on that. So West Michigan Dock purchase option for the Fisherman's Landing Campground. They can exercise that option to purchase it beginning in 2028. That was in the previous agreement as well. And it's conditioned on full payment. They can't be in default on anything. And then we have to close on that conversion property, which is the neighboring property. There is the option for an alternate property if for some reason the Verplank property does not come into fruition. The purchase price is explicitly defined as the cumulative of the lease. So again, even though we talk about a lease price in here, a prepaid lease, the way the way that we really need to think about that prepaid lease is like a purchase. So they'll pay for all that, they'll pay for that up front, and that's the purchase of the property, but we're structuring it as a lease. So when we start getting into that purchase, how do we actually acquire the conversion property at the Verplank property? So there's 3 different options here. I'm going to walk through these, and Brennan will let me know if I misstep on these. But this represents option 1, and both parties, we can mutually agree to exercise this option up until July 1st, 2027, which would be the beginning of our 27-28 fiscal year. And this would most likely be the most common scenario that we would be looking at here. So the city and MartDoc would mutually agree to exercise this option together. At closing, each party would pay for their share of the 57 acres, as well as the second rent payment. So we would get that second rent payment or lease payment at that point in time, and we would use that towards the payment for our 25 acres of land. To complete the purchase, and that completes the purchase of Fisherman's Landing or the long-term lease of Fisherman's Landing on the part of West Michigan Dock. The city would incorporate the 35-acre parcel that Mart Dock would acquire on Verplank into the lease agreement, so that way it would become one parcel. And then this is being done, so it's all one parcel. It makes it easier to apply for grants. And that's the way that portion would move forward. The 25 acres that we would obtain would be separate from that. The city would then be able to start the remediation process on that property, working through particularly on the estuary restoration, and then ultimately the nature preserve park, passive park option that we've talked about for that piece of property. This option runs from the date of the agreement is signed until December 31st, 2027. But, the purchase option with Verplank runs until December 31st, 2027. This first iteration of the purchase option goes until July 1st. And so, as I already said, that's when the purchase option expires with Verplank. Looking at the second option on how we could acquire the conversion property or the neighboring property, we could unilaterally exercise this option after July 1st, 2027. So if for some reason Mart Dock was not, or West Michigan Dock was not ready to move forward with the purchase, and we were, we could exercise that option. And so this is not mutual agreement at that point. We would kind of be going along on our own. However, we would have to be purchasing all 57 acres, which would be $5 million. Probably not going to do that option. In this scenario would only occur if we were ready to move forward, as I said, and Mart Dock wasn't. The city could begin construction or remediation on the park at that point in time. At the time that Mart Dock is ready to move forward, they would make the additional lease payment to us, and then and also for their portion of the property as well. And we would then do the same thing where we would combine the parcels into one between the campground and the Verplank property. As I stated, this is probably the least likely option because we would have to come up with $5 million. I don't think that would be in the cards in July of 27. The third option, and this is the one that gives us the most time. So West Michigan Dock reclaims the option after October 1st, 27. So this is the last 3 months that they can exercise that option with Verplank. And if we've not mutually agreed to purchase the property at this point, they could go forward. They could go ahead and move forward with the purchase of the property, all 57 acres. And then this would give us, this would give us a 5-year period on which we could purchase our other 25 acres. So that would give us some more time to save up the money if we needed to do that. However, because the conversion property would be purchased at that point in time, Mart Dock would be able to move forward with grant applications and possibly construction on the campground site. So again, this would be a 5-year option for us, and when we had that money ready to go, we could exercise that option. That's a very simplified version of it. Oh, do you want to say something?
Yeah, just
Okay.
one quick piece of clarification. Good afternoon, or good evening, commissioners. Yeah, wow. Brennan Gorman, Assistant City Attorney. One point of clarification on this third option is that Mart Dock would pay the full $5 million for the property, but the property itself would be deeded directly to the city. It wouldn't be deeded to the Mart Dock. What we would pay when we would want to effectively exercise and take back control of our 25 acres would be what's in the document as an early termination fee, that the city would pay an early termination fee, which would represent our pro rata share of that 25 acres, less the second rent payment. And that final value is what we would pay to have them release that property from the lease agreement. So at any given point in this option, and really any of these three options, the city would be the fee simple owner of that full 57-acre parcel. Thank you.
And quick clarification, or question of clarification on that. The Verplank property is $5 million, and the city would be playing a pro rata share under any of the scenario, whether it's